Live from beautiful downtown Bastrop, it's time for the Stage Select, starring Julian Titus and Justin Ham.
What could this possibly be? Seems a lot like a podcast. Wonder what specifically talking about video games. With your hosts, you're in good hands. Not more of the same. Now we'll jump right in. So expect the unexpected and more. Now we'll get grooving. Never know who's gonna walk through the door. There just might be some tragedy. Let's just having fun with our special guest. Time for Stage Select.
With special guest, Xavier Kreiger. And here are your hosts, Julian Titus and Justin Ham.
Welcome, one and all, to the Stage Select. I'm Julian Titus.
And I'm Justin Ham. Hey. Hi. Julian, I have to talk to you about something.
Okay.
Yeah. So when there was a contract and I get one show off.
I thought that the show off counted as when Key Jeffley was here.
No.
Okay.
No. Xavier's here though. It's fine. Hi, Xavier.
Yes.
Hi.
Welcome back, Xavier.
Welcome back.
Hi. Yeah, Justin texted me and said be available in 10. No questions asked. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Appreciate it.
So I'm here, but I'm leaving. I got stuff to do.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Like, I don't want to, contracts are contracts. I understand that.
Yeah.
I think maybe in the future, give me a heads up.
No.
All right.
Yeah, no,
Fair.
Absolutely not. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I found somebody to take my place. It'll be all right.
Okay.
So I got to go get them.
Okay.
Well, they'll come in. It'll be okay. Just give them a second.
All right. Well,
okay?
Justin. Enjoy your episode off.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
if I might call in, see what's going on. See how things are going.
Okay.
From time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well, have a good show, guys.
It's been fun.
See you next time. It's nice seeing you again, Xavier. Nice
seeing you again. Hopefully longer next time.
Yeah. Next time for sure.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Well,
Next time, baby.
Yep. Bye. Well, hi there. How you doing? My name is Jacob Washington. I'm Justin's replacement, I guess. I don't know. He told me to just come on here and just talk to y'all. How you doing, Julian? It's been a long time since I've seen you. How you been?
Yeah, Jacob. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
How are things going over at Sweet Tea Games?
They're going. Tell you what. Craig, he's in his Bon Jovi phase right now. It's a whole thing. I tell you what. You ever heard that there song, It's My Life?
I have.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I heard it about 12 different times today. And that's 12 times too many, let me tell you. All right?
Yeah.
You can only hear about someone's life, 5 times maybe in your life, and then that's probably too many. But,
Yeah.
it's Craig's life. It's now or never. I'll tell you what. He ain't going to live forever. All right?
Oh, that Craig.
Craig, yeah, he's a character, let me tell you. I'll tell you what. He and I have been seeing some concrete today. Oh, that's hard work right there. Sit out there in that there sun, seal that concrete. Takes forever, I tell you what.
Yeah.
The concrete. Now, who is this other gentleman over here? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I how remiss of me. Jacob, this is Xavier Kreiger, a longtime friend of our show and supporter. Xavier, meet Jacob Washington from Sweet Tea Games.
Hi, pleasure to meet you. I've heard a lot about you.
Xavier, it is nice to meet you. All right. Now, I'm a video game developer, so take it easy on me. I play some games. I know some things about some video games. Tell you what. But I'm here. I'll answer any questions you may have. But mostly I'm a sound guy. But I'm also an ideas man. It's nice to meet you. Where are you from, Xavier?
Well, I'm from southern Indiana, the mecca of the Midwest, as some call it.
I tell you what, that's I've never been to that there Indiana, but I've heard it's very flat.
It is extremely flat.
Well, you know, that sounds. Where I'm from, I wish it was a little bit more flat. We can going up and down that there mountain. Tell you what, it gets old after a while. You know, especially in the wintertime, can't go nowhere.
Ooh,
Too many curves.
Those mountains definitely scare me a little bit. We've gone on a couple like family trips, and you start hitting them.
Oh, I tell you,
kind of back to back.
Oh yeah, all right.
Spooky, especially in that cold weather.
You ever hit any of that there mountain fog? Tell you what, that mountain fog scared the dickens out of you.
Yep.
I'll tell you.
There was one time we went to Colorado for a trip and had to be back at the airport at like 7 a.m. So we tried to drive at like
them's in there
4.
Rocky Mountains. All right.
Yeah.
I've never been to them there Rocky Mountains. That's all the way on the other side of the continent for me. That's a little bit too far for Jacob Washington. You know, I tell you what. But I would like to see them there Rocky Mountains. I've heard they got like goats and such. That might be something to see. I tell you what.
There are multitudes of goats.
Well, I tell you, I mean, there's a lot of deer over here. I mean,
a lot of moose and bear, really, like out in those parts.
I believe you.
Yeah,
I never seen the moose.
Raton Pass is fun to drive in the summer, but terrifying to drive in the winter.
All right,
let me tell you,
I believe. I don't know what that is, but I believe you.
Yeah,
all right.
It's the pass that takes you from New Mexico into Colorado, at least from the direction that I drive in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. I'm a few Miller Lights in, so you know, you just bear with me. I tell you what, I might have to go to the bathroom every now and then. You just, I'll let you know. You know,
that's a champagne, a beer.
You know your stuff. I tell you what, Xavier, me and you gonna get along. Tell you what,
we're gonna have a good time.
All right.
Well, Jacob, glad that you could pitch in for Justin and Xavier. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Before we jump into things, a few things to take care of at the top of the show. First off, let me do an announcement, which is after a lot of thought and just like current events and stuff like that. I have decided to dispense with the video game presidential election bit for the stage select.
Politics, it gets a little dicey every now and then. I understand that their decision, you know?
Yeah, you know, it was supposed to be something that was supposed to be a fun, like, distraction from the real world. But unfortunately, the real world was like, fuck you, like, you're gonna deal with this no matter
every
what.
Now and then, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. I don't like talking in politics with people because I tell you what, up here, the people are kind of dumb up here. Let me tell you. I don't know if you knew that, but it's true. And you know, and they're a little one note every now and then. So you know, you kind of learn to tune that out, you know. But yeah, I understand why you wouldn't want to do that there, Julian. I mean, that might be, you know, Justin was telling me about that, and he was wondering what was going on with it. But, you know, that makes sense to me to not want to do that.
It was also, you know, becoming like a lot more work than anticipated.
Right.
You know, and then with certain, like things like personal and also tech-wise, like, it was getting like further and further, like we were getting closer and closer to like the actual election, and like we still hadn't actually like finished even running the ads. So I don't think it was actually going to be like tenable. So
you know, what are you gonna do? Maybe next time, you know.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I guess a lot depends on November. Like,
yeah. Well, maybe you just have your own election in the middle of like in 2 years or such. You know, you just have your own little one, and that's the video game president, and that's all they is.
Yeah.
You know, they
do it off season.
Yeah. You know, that way everybody's like, well, I guess it makes sense. It don't have to make sense, Julian. I mean, you can do what you want.
Oh yeah,
right.
Just yeah, and there was actually, I'm not going to say it on here, but there was actually like I reached out to friends of the show to work on an ad, and they were like, we just really don't feel comfortable like doing anything regarding that, that really made me stop and think, and it's like, this might not be in the best taste, so decided to go ahead and put that away.
Well, I can't say as I blame you there.
Yeah. Next up, I was on, so I'm assuming by the time this episode goes up, or at least very shortly after, an episode of Games My Mom Found covering Bujingai, the Forsaken Kingdom.
I'm sorry. What was the name of that there game?
Bujingai, the Forsaken Kingdom, Jacob.
Bujingai.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. What will they think of next? I'll tell you what.
I don't know. It's like you scare the djinn out of a guy. And
well, I mean, what that would mean, he would pee himself, Julian. Is that what you're trying to imply there?
Well, I was just to help with the pronunciation. Like, I think that's the.
All right. Well, okay.
Jinn guy.
What if the man is made out of gin, though?
He could be a gin guy,
right?
Yeah.
And he's also a ghost.
But,
you gotta watch out for them there ghosts. I mean, they're in them houses, and they'll be haunted. They'll be moving around like chairs and such. It's a whole thing. I tell you what, it's scary.
You gotta watch for that.
You gotta watch for that. I mean, them ghosts are out here too. I mean, they're out there in the forest. They're scaring the bears around. The bears will come in your yard and start peeing on things and such. It's a whole thing. I tell you what, you get some bear pee in your yard. Now, well, the good thing about getting bear pee in your yard, right? If bear pees in the yard, then the groundhogs will stay away from your house because they don't like that bear. They're afraid of that bear, and rightfully so. That bear will tear them up. I mean, that's food to that bear. But, you don't want the bears in your yard, because, you can't shoot them with the 22. Tell you what, right now, you're going to need a bigger caliber rifle for that. I'll tell you right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I need to find a legal way to get bear urine into my yard.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, look into it. It'll work. Tell you what.
It looks expensive, but I guess it's worth it.
I mean, it ain't cheap, but what in this world is, let me tell you.
Especially these days.
Yeah, seriously.
Right. Tell you what.
So yeah, that's a fun episode that about a game that I thought I had actually played before, and then when I got the copy from eBay, realized that I had not only never played it before, I had never seen it before. So that was a fun like experience of learning what that was. And you can learn along with me on Games My Mom Found.
Bujingai.
Yes.
All right.
Forsaken City. Yeah.
Forsaken.
Starring Gact.
The city is Forsaken.
The J-pop star.
Oh boy.
The city is Forsaken.
That sounds like a whole ordeal right there. Tell you what.
Yeah, it really is, actually.
All right. Well.
Yeah. And then we do have a winner for the next edition of the Suffer Select, our Patreon bonus series. Justin and I will be playing Lady in a Leotard with a Gun.
All right. Well,
Yeah, you never know. You don't know what you're going to get with that game,
Well, let me tell you, that sounds like a whole thing right there. A lady in a leotard. I mean, at least it tells you what's going on in the game. A lot of games don't. I mean, I don't know what's happening in Bujingai, but I can tell you what's happening with Lady in the Leotard. She's in a leotard and she's got a gun. I mean, that says it all right there. That sounds pretty self-explanatory.
It's not a 22 rifle though. It's just a pistol.
That sounds about right. I mean, if I was in a leotard, I probably wouldn't be shooting no 22 rifle. Tell you that right now.
Yeah. You have other problems. Like,
right. You probably have other problems at that point. I tell you that right now.
Things are riding up. It's not comfortable.
Well,
you got to worry about that.
I mean, I've never had one on. Maybe they're very comfortable. We'd have to try it.
Possibly.
Yeah. Let's not judge, Julian.
No, I'm not. No. Yeah.
All right.
Make an observation.
All right.
And then last thing before we jump into things, and this is more of a somber thing, so I thought I'd leave it for the end. This episode is going to be released on July 31st for the free feed, which will be 9 years to the day that my mother was killed in a car accident. Back on Nerds Without Pants, in those days, I would take the episode that would be airing around that time, and I would throw in a bunch of music that she loved as a way to honor her. But that show was never monetized, and it was never intended to be monetized. Things are different now. We're also on platforms where that can be very difficult. especially Patreon. Like, so I can't do that anymore, but I still wanted to acknowledge it. And, Carol Burnett, when she first, like, her first appearance on television, she promised her grandma that she would, like, give her a signal, to let her grandma know that she was, like, thinking of her. And so she tugged on her, earlobe. And from that day on, she would do that every time that she would appear on stage. And so this is just kind of my way of, like, tugging my earlobe. And just, just to say, you never know what's going to happen, and tell the ones you love that you love them when you can, cause you never know. And, yeah, I miss her dearly. Even knowing that, like, now it's been 9 years, like, she probably would have realistically passed naturally by now, but, I feel that would have been, I would have had a lot more time with her than what I got. So, yeah. So that's it for all of the preamble and show stuff. Xavier, you actually, so this is your second time on the Stage Select, but technically it's your first appearance on the main show, because you actually were on our first issue, our first episode, our Game of the Year, second episode, our Game of the Year episode, which was, we recorded that, like, actually, it wasn't last year, but it was, like, before the show actually, like, started.
Way earlier, yeah.
Right.
That all went out of order, didn't it? The way you guys released it.
Yes. Yeah. So what have you been up to lately? It's been a minute.
It has been a while. So it's the summer. And so my son's birthday is this month in July. And then a couple weeks ago was July 4th. And even though that isn't necessarily a holiday that I have a particular affinity for.
Well, you can blow something up. I mean, that's the thing you can do. That's what we did. We blew up a toaster oven.
The public excuse to have access to both alcohol and fire, is one of the many joys. I mean,
that's the only
July
reason
4th.
I like the holiday. I mean, I just like to go up there and blow things up with you can shoot a 22. Nobody's going to complain on that day. It's just part of the festivities right there. I mean, yeah. I blew up a toaster oven. I set a refrigerator on fire. That was fun. It didn't have no Miller Lite in it, and it didn't work no more, so we just set the goddamn thing on fire.
It doesn't have Miller Lite in it, then its days are done. Its
days are done. I tell you what. We had ourselves a good time doing that. But, I get it. It ain't my favorite holiday either. I mean, sometimes if you have small pets and such, they will bark. I tell you what, they do not like that.
Yeah.
Even if you have large ones. We
have 3 dogs and 3 cats.
Well, I tell you.
Used to live in a fairly poor neighborhood. So it was like constant fireworks for 10 days before and 10 days after. And so our animals would always freak out. And just general whatever. So I've never super loved the holiday. But,
that makes sense to me.
We have our son. We're trying to kind of change the way that our, family is and what we celebrate and whatever. So, any excuse to take a little bit of time off of work and go out of town. So we took my son to a lake up in northern Indiana. And so whenever I decided to do that was right when the Steam sale started. And I find myself in possession of a Steam deck or like access to a Steam library fairly easily, a lot more than I ever have in the past. So I went a little wild and bought like 70 different games, most of which I will probably never play.
That's a lot of games there.
Some of what, so a lot of what I buy in 70 is probably a slight exaggeration.
All right.
But it's stuff like, you guys have talked about and Justin's talked about as he's been here about like,
right.
Well, Shadow of Mordor is $1.99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Batman Arkham Knight is, $3.99 or whatever. Added to the cart. So I bought a lot of stuff like that. But the big game that really like kind of took me by storm that I played a ton while I was there is called Foretales. Have either of you ever heard of this game?
Now, is it the number 4 or like it's 4 Tales?
Fore.
Like B4. Like B4
Tales. Like
Tales.
stories.
All right.
or
Okay.
foreplay.
Exactly. It is about foreplay. That is
That's
correct.
that's an interesting way to put that. All right.
So
Yeah.
this is a narrative deck building game. So it's kind of like a puzzle that you're trying to kind of work your way through. You have in the middle of the field, you have a set of cards, and the cards are different things that are happening. So one of the first levels takes place in like a city. So one of the cards is like a merchant cart that's in the city, and one of the cards is a guard that's wandering around, and the cards are different, just kind of places like that. And then you have a hand that is made up of the different characters that you're playing with. Each of them has abilities, and it's all the abilities they have access to. So you play these kind of like animal companions. So the starting one is like I believe he's a crane rogue. And so
a crane rogue. He's a crane and a rogue.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
that
sounds crafty. Let me tell you.
Like a tiger ranger that is in your party.
All right.
And so they have abilities like the rogue has the ability to eavesdrop or to drop a smoke bomb or do like go up and cut a purse. And then the ranger has abilities like trying to find allies or shooting a bow and arrow and stuff like that. And you take the cards, put them on the cards that are on the field, and then they have an effect on that scene, and it makes it into a new card.
All right.
You go through and you're trying to constantly change what is on the board to achieve something. So for the first world, or one of the first levels that you go to, you're trying to get into a prison. So you're trying to find the prison, find a way into the prison.
That doesn't sound like something you want to do. You don't want to find your way into the prison.
There's somebody that you have to rescue
get out
from
of
the
there.
prison. So you got to find
all
your
right,
way in,
all right. I see.
Get somebody out. And
that
then,
makes sense.
Rescue them.
Okay. So he was wrongfully in prison, is what you're saying.
Well, he is in prison for the thing that he did, but the morals of the thing that he did is more of what is in question.
Was he doing like 150-mile-an-hour place? Because you can't do that. They will throw you in jail for that.
Sometimes you need a drive-in beer, and
all right.
Drunk.
Well.
And
I mean, now
maybe it's technically against the law.
Now, if you have a Miller Lite, you are not supposed to go driving down the road. Now, I have told Craig on multiple occasions we are not going to do that. All right, I don't care if it's just down the street. All right, we don't do that where I'm from. All right. Well, some people do. I try to stop it. All right, let me tell you, I do my part, Xavier. I tell you what.
Well, I'm glad, and it's definitely something that we shouldn't do. But life in prison for this crane's relative.
All right. Well.
But so
punishment does not fit the crime.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. That
so you got to
sense.
break into it, and so you see a crowd, and then you have your set of 4 to 5 cards that can interact with that. So one of them is eavesdrop. So you drop the eavesdrop card on the crowd, and then you get a secret. And then more cards, that card goes away, and another card comes out. And maybe the next card that comes out is a guard. So you can use the secret that you picked up from the eavesdrop and use that on the guard to kind of either something or you're trying to find out something specific, and then you get a drop that there's going to be for some supplies that are going into the prison. And so it's kind of, you have these set 5 or 6 abilities, and you're using them on the different cards that appear for the world to try to kind of impact them. And it takes you to either just the next card. Some of them just kind of take you, discard that and draw the next card on the location deck. Some of them actually do specific reactions with specific cards. So there's a mob of people and you throw a smoke bomb, maybe it turns them into rioters. There's a mob of people and you use a card called Partner with the Weak, and you go out and support them in some way and then get the miner that is on your side that you actually get into your deck.
Now, when you say cards, you don't mean like poker, right? I mean, we're not playing poker. It's a whole different thing, right?
It's a whole different thing.
All
so
right, well.
it's just you have the cards on the left that are for all of your characters, and then the cards on the right are just kind of stagnant things like food, gold, keys, kind of stuff that you find throughout the world.
That is a strange kind of poker, let me tell you right there. Boy.
It is.
All
and
right.
it's got all kinds of its own little rules on what can go with everything, but it does give you a pretty handy kind of, when you hover over a card, what it can interact with, and if you interact with it, what it will do. So you kind of always know what is going on next. It was pretty cheap on Steam. I really enjoyed it.
All right.
I enjoy it a lot more on my actual PC than on the Steam Deck. Because on the Steam Deck, the controls to go around and like hover over the cards is all on like the trackpad.
Yeah, mouse and
it sounds like
keyboard.
something that you want a mouse for.
Yeah.
Mouse and keyboard, that'll help with them their card games. We used to play a lot of solitaire on that there mouse and keyboard, you know?
Yeah. And it works, the Steam Deck does well enough for it. I mean, I played the first like 4 or so hours of this game on the Steam Deck and had a good time. But it's definitely, at this point, if I play more of it, I'm playing it on the PC.
All right.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot. It sounds like a tabletop game. Like it I would not be surprised if you told me that it had been adapted from like some board game. That this is just like the computer version of it, because it sounds very like Dominion or something along those lines.
It translates a lot into a lot of those type of games. And it's something, I've picked up a decent amount of those games because I have a group that will play games, but a lot of times we default to a lot of the lower impact, quicker, easier games that everybody knows.
Right.
So I've been picking up a lot of the games. You see a lot of stuff going to consoles and PC, and it's such an easier, sit it down, get a friend to play it online, and not have to put everything together and not have to take everything apart. And it kind of runs you through a lot of the rules. So it's a lot easier of a kind of onboarding typically. So buying a lot of games like that, I think, is what caused it to kind of recommend this game to me.
Right.
Xavier, you ever played that there Game of Life?
I do quite enjoy a good Game of Life.
Now let me tell you something. We play that around here when we have a couple Miller Lights. We play the Game of Life. We get in that there little car. We go driving around, rolling the dice and such or whatever. I can't even remember how to play the goddamn thing. But every time we have a kid in the game, we take a shot of that there whiskey. And I tell you what, you get a good buzz after a while of that. And let me tell you, you end up in, it used to be the Poor Farm, but they were like, maybe we shouldn't make it the Poor Farm. And they made it something else. I can't remember what it is now. But, yeah, the Game of Life, I seen that was on Steam too. You can play that. They made a sequel to it. I don't know how you do that, but there's a Game of Life 2 out there.
See, after Armageddon, you get resurrected, and then that's Game of Life 2.
Well, that don't make a lick of sense to me, but all right.
It actually, the more you think about it, the less sense it actually makes, Jacob.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Now that makes sense. All right. Well, now, Xavier, I don't mean to cut you off there, but I have to. Justin told me I could hit some of these here buttons. And he told me there was a specific one that I should hit if Julian said something maybe a bit untoward. So I'm going to try to hit that there button right now. All right. Well,
God damn it! I didn't think he told you about the buttons.
He said, be a little lenient with them, but I mean, and then he told me read this here thing if things got a little awkward here. So we have to learn about an episode of that there Shasta McNasty. That is a hell of a name for a television show. Let me tell you, I do not know what this is. But it's episode 3, Adult Education. All right. After discovering that the Squidmado, I do not know what that is, stand is closing down, Randy blends his own and gets Dennis to endorse it with the locals before appearing as a guest on Win Ben Stein's Money. I remember that there show that you got on there. You answered questions that there Ben Stein. He'd get on there and you'd have to beat him. He's a smart man, that Ben Stein. Meanwhile, Diana, who finds herself strangely attracted to Dennis's genius, is eager to seek out the truth, and Scott enrolls in night school only to develop a crush on his married teacher. There you go. That's episode 3 of Shasta McNasty, apparently.
All right.
Little Persona kind of intersection there with that.
Well,
or Dawson's Creek if you want to go real old school.
Oh yeah,
right. Well, that's apparently the Shasta McNasty alarm. That's all he told me to say on that. All right, then I hit this other button.
Toughest Shasta McNasty.
Well, I mean, different Moors in Virginia.
That's
so
true.
I feel
right.
Yeah, like I get it.
We're gonna learn about the whole first season tonight.
It might happen. You never know. Tell you what,
I might have to moderate my tone a little bit more.
that there button is there. I mean, it keeps going. This here Wikipedia. I tell you what, there's an episode 4. There's an episode 5. I mean, we could go for a while.
Yeah. No, part of it was a calculated testing of if Justin had informed you of the Shasta McNasty button and
apparently
now
Julian, you were not safe. I tell you what, just when you think you are, you ain't. All right. Yeah. Well, now we all have to learn that. I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't like learning about it either, but here we are.
Yeah. Shasta McNasty comes for us all eventually.
I mean, apparently so. I don't even. Yeah. What does that there mean? What does that even mean?
I don't know.
I don't either. I remember having a Shasta when I was a young man. I mean, it was just like cheap soda that you would buy at the Food City. Like came in them little tiny cans. You ever had them? I mean, they were good. They were flavored. I remember for a little while they had them Mario characters on them. You could get them at the Payless, I believe. Not the shoe store. There was like I can't remember what it was called. There was like a little value store. You could buy them their Shastas at. Oh boy, I can't remember what that was called. But they were good. I'd keep them in my garage, and I'd sneak them here and there, because they had a lot of sugar in them, and I was a young man. They didn't want me having all that sugar. I tell you what, because I was, I'd be a little bit rambunctious after all that. Tell you what, All right. Well, I'll turn it back over to you, Xavier. What else you been doing with them in their video games?
I think my big game that I have been playing is Flintlock Siege of Dawn. Julian, did you say you started this one?
I played basically the tutorial. So I do have like some very basic thoughts. Very positive thoughts. I really like the way that game feels. I love the traversal. Like, I think, that's, so like Elden Ring, well, I guess Sekiro first, but like Elden Ring really kind of like took the mobility. Well, I guess Sekiro is a little bit more mobile, but like those two From games really added like a lot of mobility to the formula of that style of game. And I know Flintlock bills itself as a Souls-light. And I really do love like the double jump and like the air dash and stuff like that. The thing that I think that really stood out for me though, from the little bit that I played, and the thing that I think is what, ultimately will keep me playing the game, is the fact that there's people.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that'll help,
Yeah. It's amazing, Jacob, how much a story-driven game can benefit from having actual characters in it.
Well, now, I mean, it does help, but I mean, sometimes people can be like ducks, and like if you have some ducks, you can tell a story with them. I mean, they got to talk. If you got some talking ducks, you can make a hell of a story out of that. I tell you what.
I'm sure you could. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be all right. I mean,
they made a goose game. I'm sure a duck game would.
Right, but well, I mean, talking ducks with a story, like them are DuckTales, but not DuckTales.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me about that, Jacob, because I actually do need to talk about DuckTales Remastered later. So thank you.
All right, you're welcome. I didn't even mean to do that, but all right.
Yeah.
I definitely agree that there's something about the world just having people in it. You go and talk to them, and even though it has a little bit of that, dour end of the world, everything has gone awful. People that are just like one of the main guys that you recruit to your camp when you sit at the camp for any reason, which is, every kind of bigger area or so has a couple campfires in it. And it's where you like upgrade stuff. But one of the guys just like sits and plays guitar and just kind of like hums to himself. So there's like, if you're at that, which is usually where I tried to end a session, I would end a session and like set my controller down and then let the game just kind of play for, 5 minutes or so. And there's like that ambiance of him just kind of humming and plucking away. It's just kind of nice to have. For sure.
Yeah. And I think also having your character as a character that actually speaks, right? Like, that it sounds weird, but like that goes a long way for me in this type of game. And I guess also because like it's not just you, but you also have like a partner character, with he's like a god, right? Like he's like a
is he like a talking duck?
Yeah, he's
like a talking fox.
Yeah, it's
all right. Well, that's close enough, right?
Yeah.
All right, that sounds all right. I'd play that.
I think that character does a pretty good job throughout the game of not ever really getting annoying or frustrating. Like he doesn't, he'll say some of the same stuff over and over again, but other than that, he doesn't jump in and try and help with like puzzles, and he doesn't start saying things or bickering or being annoying, outside of little moments in the story where they have some kind of like a development that they're discussing. So he always is like a little bit of a refreshing, just kind of them talking back and forth, which also makes the game kind of have that lived in quality that always stays good. I really enjoyed the way that this game played, and it does something. So, I haven't really talked about this on Stage Select. Back on Nerds Without Pants, there's many moments of me kind of coming out and talking about not really clicking with any of the Souls-like games. So, I didn't really get into Elden Ring or Bloodborne, but I have played most of them, and I will sit and try to play them. Usually those games have like a first big gatekeeping boss that's kind of like learn the game or you can't get past this. I usually try to get at least to that and beat it, just so that I can kind of, okay, I tried the game, I learned the game, I understand it on a fundamental level, I'm not having a great time, so I'm going to move on and do something else that's kind of more in line with what I want to do, but I get the game. But at no point, even when I have beaten some of these bosses, do I ever feel like I have gotten dramatically more capable and powerful than I started the game with. Now, I can get to the point where I understand the mechanics, and so, I'll beat a boss without taking damage, but it's because I have gotten better, not necessarily because the character is like a drastically different character. I feel like with Flintlock, the character feels completely different at the end of the game because of all the skills that they've unlocked. In a way that I haven't gotten with Elden Ring and with all the others. Now, having said that, I know that when you play those games to the end of them, I have seen all the ways that you can get like ridiculously powerful and overpowered and all that kind of stuff. But I felt like where I started that game and how I was, very cautious and careful with everything, I got to the point at the end of the game where I had no hesitation about jumping into the fray because I felt like she had grown so much more powerful in a way that she no longer needed to be afraid of the world. Whereas I feel like in Elden Ring or a Souls-like game, as you get more and more capable, kind of the world ramps that up alongside you and is not afraid to like step in and be like, don't get too cocky here. Check out this new boss pattern or new power or whatever. I felt like where this character started is a, speck of a mortal trying to go against gods. And then by the end of the game, like her power belongs in that pantheon with them. And she's kind of like carved that out, which I really enjoyed, kind of that feeling of all the different things she could do and all the different resistances and ability to break through the different mechanics and whatever.
All right.
Yeah, it feels like it's a good entry point into this genre, along with that one that I talked about that I played the demo of a few episodes ago, Enotria, which is, because that one, like, I felt that, like, it's fairly generous with, like, its parry timing and stuff like that, so it feels a lot more accessible than a From-made game like this. But also, I really, and I guess other games have done this, because I watched a review that mentioned some other games, but I'd never seen this before. But one of the mechanics I really love about Flintlock is that you have this, like, you get this, like, bonus multiplier to your experience as you do varied things without taking damage. So, like, if you parry an attack, or if you do, like, a special move, or you do, like, a magic thing, or you do, like, a really cool dodge, all of that starts adding up to, like, this multiplier that can go very high, and then you can choose when to bank it. So, you know, like, if you want to be more cautious, like, oh, I don't know, like, it's up to, like, you know, plus 100% right now. Let me go ahead and, like, you know, take that right now. And I don't, Xavier, do you, I'm assuming it still works like other games where when you die, like, you lose what you've got and you have to go back for it?
Yep.
Okay. But even so, like, you know, as you're fighting, you can potentially be getting, like, exponentially more experience per enemy, if you're doing really well. And, you know, it also seems like a game that wants you to get to that point, like you're saying, where you've got this, right? Like, and then it becomes almost like you're making the challenge for yourself. Like, well, how high can I get that multiplier, like, before I take a hit?
And between the mobility and the, you know, 14 different kind of combat options that they give you, I definitely feel like the game wants you to kind of get comfortable with the systems. It wants you to wade into combat and be like, I can push it a little further. I can go a little higher and get that multiplayer up. And they even have other systems in the game that feed off of that multiplayer, or that multiplier eventually. So, like, there's weapons that, you know, it's whatever your multiplier is at that time. This weapon is going to deal a lower base damage, but it's going to deal increased damage based on your multiplier. So if you actually feel confident that you can get that multiplier and keep it, and, you know, even if you lose it, amp that back up in the middle of a boss fight or whatever by doing parry, interrupt, attack, dodge back, you know, do all these combinations of stuff, you can start dealing damage out kind of based on that as well. So it wants you to imbue all these systems and feel powerful by the end of the game, which I definitely did, you know, and I really enjoyed it. And the level of kind of, okay, I'm nervous to, you know, there's a path in the middle of the mountains or whatever at the beginning of the game, and I'm going to really cautiously, like, walk down it, and I'm going to, you know, walk around, and I'm going to check to the sides and make sure there's no enemies, and compared to the end of the game where I'm just, like, air dashing and rifting and flipping and whatever past all these guys, and a guy appears and I just kind of parry him, knock him down, stun him, get my multiplier, and then keep jetting forward because, you know, I got places to be.
Yeah. And also just, like, I kind of appreciate, like, you know, I don't know what the breadth of the loadout is later on, but the fact that, like, your character starts with, like, a hatchet as their main melee weapon and a flintlock pistol, like, that's a very different feel than, you know, most of these types of games, like, starting kits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hatchet and a flintlock pistol. That's all you have? Yep. All right. So it only shoots like one bullet then?
Three bullets.
That's some fancy. That's a fancy flintlock. Let me tell you.
And that's cool too, because you actually get your bullets back as you do damage.
So it's like a magic gun.
Yes.
All right. Well, I can accept that as being all right. As long as we're living in fantasy land, that's all right.
They say black powder, and they never really dig into what that is, but it's basically. I mean, it's got enough real world analogy that, you know, but it's got some weird, like, magic properties that it's like, look.
Well, I mean, if you do light it on fire, I'm sure it explodes. I mean,
that's all you needed to do.
That's right, exactly. That makes sense.
4th of July out here.
Right, exactly. And then you shoot at a toaster oven. Right.
and I like that, you know, that kind of removes the bloodborne problem of, well, I can't use this pistol very often because I only have, like, you know, this number of bullets. And you know, it allows you to be a lot more free with that mechanic because it's actually, like, kind of a major part of, you know, your moment-to-moment gameplay.
Yeah, and it takes 3 hits to bring back kind of one shot. And at the beginning of the game, that felt like it was just kind of very easy to keep that on. But some of the bosses later force you to do such kind of sporadic attacking that I was like fighting to stay above water and keeping the shots that I needed to be able to interrupt them when they did their, big interrupt attacks. And you can really feel the balance of it kind of shifting later. And then there's different guns and stuff that have more or fewer bullets.
All right.
Right.
So more than one magical gun. Got it. All right.
Multiple, yeah. And I actually,
that sounds all right.
Playing the game, enjoyed it enough. I've gotten like 33 or so out of the 38 trophies.
Oh, nice.
So a lot of the trophies are just kind of baked into play the game, and you'll unlock pretty much everything. The only and I was kind of considering platinuming it, but a couple of the final trophies are basically just like get a sharp weapon to its max upgraded, get a blunt weapon max upgraded, get a pistol, get a rifle, get everything. And I used all the resources I had at the end of the game after doing all the side quests, and was only able to fully upgrade like 4 out of the 7 things. And hadn't even and I was like, I'm not going to go grind iron to get the last 2 trophies for this game.
Nobody wants to grind that there iron. You got to get the iron on the thing, on the grinder, and you got to sit
sometimes
there and
you got to grind some iron.
Sometimes you do got to grind some iron.
The alternatives is wood, and that's going to give you splinters. So if you're going to do it,
it's hard work. I tell you what, you got to sit there. You got to wear some gloves. At least, you might want to wear some long sleeves too. You put that iron against that grinder. It's gonna make some sparks. Let me tell you. You don't want to have anything, that you can light on fire around there, because it'll set it right on fire. Let me tell you.
Right.
Right.
Grinder. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I was talking about.
Right.
And also one of the things, do you know about how long it took you, Xavier? Because I saw that it's not like a ridiculously long game.
So I did. There's only, I believe, 9 side quests, and then 5 or 6 sapper quests that you can do. I did all of those in the main story, and I think it was 17 hours. So you could probably get out for around 12 to 13 if you don't do a lot of the side stuff. The side stuff isn't the story is never off the charts great. Well written, whatever. But it's fun. It's fine. It has some interesting things to say about gods and why you worship and why you don't, and whatever. But a lot of the side quests do have some kind of interesting things to say. So I do think they're fun to do. At least start it and see if it's interesting. There's one that you go to this house that one of the characters is from that has demons and shit that have kind of spawned up on it. So it has a cool, completely different map, and you get to go, and it's got some different enemies and stuff. So there is some reasons to go and do the side missions in it. But yeah, it's a good short kind of chunk.
Yeah, it really does, and I had mentioned this before, but it really does feel like it is occupying a space that is really wide open these days, which is a really solid mid-tier game. It's scoped properly, it's priced properly. But has really cool ideas, and it's something absolutely worth playing. And also, if you're on Game Pass, it's on Game Pass. So right. That's the funny thing is that as I keep talking about, it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is such a obstacle on my path to actually finishing other stuff or starting other stuff. But
right.
3 games that I really that I was really looking forward to all came out in the same week on Game Pass, which was Flintlock, Kunitsugami, and Dungeons of Hinterberg.
Yeah.
All right.
And I want to check out all of those. I've got them all downloaded on my Xbox. I just haven't, messed with them yet, other than the tutorial of Flintlock. But
sometimes people show up at your house and they're like, "Well, time to seal that concrete," and you're like, "God dang it, it's gonna play them their video games." But you can't. You gotta go help them seal the concrete, because someday you're gonna need your concrete sealed, and then who's gonna help you? You know what I mean?
I actually don't, because that's so not my personal experience.
I tell you what. Well, you need to make you some friends that are good at sealing concrete, because here's the thing, Julian. You don't seal your concrete, it's gonna get cracks in it. All right, and you don't want that, because then they just get bigger and bigger. Tell you what.
Oh, it already does.
Well, it's too late now. You're gonna have to put a whole new concrete down. That's gonna cost you a lot. I'm telling you what. Don't messed up.
Or I'll just get out of here.
Well, now, I mean, that's an option. That's an option.
Little word of advice to people: if you have the option to buy a new house, like a house that is being built, only do that if you have crazy money where you can actually get it done right with really good materials and really you pick the contractor and stuff like that, and it's not just part of
that sounds about right to me. You want a nice house. I mean,
I'm 3 years into this place and it feels like it's falling apart.
But if you don't have that kind of money, just put yourself up a double wide, just on a plot of land. I mean, it'll do you just right. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Unless you got a lot of kids running around, then you can't really do that. But I mean, just put you down a double wide. It got everything you need in there. How much room you really need in there? Tell you what, not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like a little bit more room, but
no,
I guess not, because I'm actually planning on getting rid of the game collection. So I don't actually need as much room as I think.
Well,
no, you're right, Jacob.
Yeah, you just get you a double wide, I mean, if anything, put you a TV in the bathroom. You can play video games in there. You can do whatever you want. I mean, who's going to judge you? Nobody. All right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you. I'd be like, this guy has a TV in his bathroom. I tell you what, that's pretty all right.
Oh, shit.
Well, while y'all were talking about them there video games, I've been hammering them Miller Lights a little bit too hard here. So I'm going to go use me the bathroom real quick, and I'll be right back, all right?
Okay.
All right.
Oh, Justin's calling me. Hold on. Let me take this. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, what's up, man?
How's it going, man?
Not bad.
How's the show been?
It's all right.
All right.
I mean,
that's just all right. Okay, that's about
yeah.
It's about par for the course for me, and when I'm on it too. So that's good. That's good. Glad it's going.
Yeah.
Glad it's going all right.
Talk some games, Jacob. I really appreciate that you told him about the buttons. That's awesome.
I mean, so
much.
I showed him all of them. Yeah, he knows how to use the thing. We'll leave that a surprise. No, he knows. He's
yeah.
I mean, he does audio stuff for video games. He knows how to use them.
Yeah, I just didn't anticipate you going over the whole switchboard with him. I
Julian,
figured.
Come on, of course I did. Come on. Well, I'm glad to hear the show's going all right. I've been looking at pictures of llamas. A lot of pictures of llamas on the internet. Did you know that?
I can imagine.
Yeah.
You should call Gary and Larry Grub Thumpers llama. Oh fuck! I don't remember the whole bit.
Man,
never mind.
It probably wasn't a good bit anyway. All right. Well, I'm gonna get off of here. I got a lot of pictures to go through. I'm not actually looking at pictures of llamas. I'm not really doing much of anything. It's great. It's fucking great. I can tell you that right now. But I'm glad to hear the show's going on all right. Just want to check. I hope I'm not interrupting the show. That sounds terrible. Why would that?
No, actually, you called it the perfect time. Jacob actually had to take a bathroom break.
Oh, well, that's good. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna get off here. I'll let you do the thing. That's
okay.
All right. Cool.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
Yep. You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Cooking is hard, and getting food delivered is expensive and slow. But meal kits are hard, expensive, and slow. What you need is Pronto Paste. For a low monthly subscription, you can have specially formulated food paste delivered to your door. It's packed with nutrients and protein. Everything the body needs to continue to live. Act fast and Choose from flavors such as almost meat, seems like spinach, and apple crisp. Pronto paste. You won't enjoy eating anymore, but at least your stomach will be full.
Well, Xavier,
Hey, man. Hey.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh, what's up, Abramo?
Hey, there's a guy in the bathroom, and he keeps talking about butterfly knives, man. And I think he wants to sell me one. And I mean, it's a good price, man. Should I, buy it?
Look, Abramo, you know that you get in trouble with knives.
But hey, man. Hey, what if I had a butterfly knife, though, man? I mean, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, but then what if you get pulled over by Ashley Chang, Millennial Cop again?
All right. Yeah, well, hey, man. I mean, but that's not going to happen, man. I'm not even driving anymore. The other day, I walked, 50 miles, man.
That's a lot.
That is
I mean, yeah, but I did it. I was here, and then I walked all the way there.
You should have called me or Justin. We would have given you a ride.
I mean, it took me a whole day, but I did it. And there was a man there, and he was like, "Hey, man." And I was like, "Hey, man." And he was like, "Hey, did you walk here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay. All right." And so that was pretty much it. And then I walked home. And then, yeah.
I like to think that man is just there waiting to ask people if they walked there. I hope that that's what he does all day.
I mean, that'd be pretty cool, man. I mean, seriously, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna go. I gotta clean some more stuff.
Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, Abramo. If you want to buy a butterfly knife,
I
don't recommend it.
Hey, man. Hey, I already bought it. So you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You were just You just wanted to inform us that you.
Yeah, I mean, It's really cool, man. I mean, it's got a curved blade on it. Yeah, man.
Okay,
that sounds dangerous, but
you're asking for trouble.
You can't be ruled by the things that you should have done. If you were going to think about that,
Julian, I don't know who this guy is, but he is talking a lot of sense to me right now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Hey, mysterious dude. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go. If you go to the bathroom later, don't use the force stall. It's not a very good one. Okay. All right. There's a lot of bad things going on there. I think it might be haunted. And I don't know.
No toilet paper,
I'm trying to get a priest. I'm trying to get a priest in there to look at it for me. But every time I go to the church, they're like, "Hey, man, did you walk here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I get awkward and I go home, so I can't get a priest. But anyway, I'm gonna go. You guys have a good night.
All right. Thanks, Abramo.
Be safe.
Keep up the good work.
Woo-wee. That there I tell you what, that there bathroom, that is the cleanest goddamn bathroom I have ever seen in my life. I don't know who you got cleaning that. I went to that there force stall. I tell you what, it was nice in there. All right, that was a good stall. I mean, yeah. I mean,
nothing crazy.
Anything weird?
No, I mean, you felt like a soothing presence in there. I don't know what y'all are doing, but you're doing something right. Let me tell you.
Good to know.
Did I miss anything? Did anything exciting happen?
No, we've just been kind of shooting the shit.
All right. Well, that sounds good. All right.
Yeah. Shooting the shit with a 22.
Well, I mean, hey, sometimes you got to shoot something with a 22. Let me tell you. I get that.
You do.
If anybody gets it, it's me. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
All right.
Xavier, what else have you been up to?
I think the only other thing that I've put so I'll very briefly touch on Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which I have played. I'm on chapter 6, I think. I just got to Dodoko Island. I'm in the middle of the first time they take you to that and kind of run you through all that stuff. I don't have a whole lot on this game other than just how much I am overall enjoying it. The story is really good. The characters are really good. I've been streaming it and having a couple friends that have not watched or played any of the Yakuza or Like a Dragon games in the past. And even they have a lot of people are commenting on just Ichiban and how good of a character he is, how much positivity and fun, and just one of them is going through a lot of tough times, and he'll get on screen and give a monologue, and they'll be just I don't remember this dude's name and I don't know what's happening, but I just cried at that guy's speech that he gave to this random dude he encountered on the street or whatever.
Is that boy with the funny hair?
Yes, yeah.
All right. I like that boy. He's a nice guy. I tell you what. Every time now, I've seen some clips of him on the internet, and I tell you what, I would like to play that there Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. It seems like a game I might like. There's a lot of men, and you got to punch them in the head, and that's my kind of speed right there. You punch a man, and he goes down. I'll tell you what. That seems pretty fun. And the men are nice. Well, the men they're nice. That seems like all right. It's in Hawaii. I've never been to Hawaii. They got mountains there that blow up. That seems pretty dangerous to me.
It does seem.
Yes, they do have the mountains that blow up.
Yeah, I might not want to go there. That seems a little intimidating. But that Ichiban, he ain't afraid of that. He's like, mountain, you blow up on me, I don't care. All right, I tell you right now.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know this, but Japanese people are pretty impervious to volcanoes.
That's
a whole
pretty impressive.
Game series about people surviving being thrown into volcanoes.
So, right. Yeah, I've heard about that. That. That's at their what is that name? That Tekken? Tekken, is that the name? All right, Tekken.
Yep.
That's. I don't know what that means, but that sounds all right. That's another game where people kick each other.
Yeah, it is actually.
All right. I like these games about people kicking each other. That seems like a good game right there.
Or hit somebody with a comically large tuna in the case of
all right.
Like a Dragon.
Well, sometimes you got to hit somebody with a fish. All right.
Yeah.
I've hit somebody with a fish before. Tell you what.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. You have a good time. I don't like fish. That's why I go fishing sometimes. I'll fish and then I'll punch the fish after I catch him. Just to show him who's boss. While he's suffocating, because I just don't like fish.
Do you throw them back and let them spread the word, or just punch them and then let them?
No, then I eat them. And then one time I was so mad at a fish because it stabbed me with its stupid ass fins, that I cooked it and then threw its meat back in the lake. That was the whole thing. I really sent a message that day.
No,
right?
you did.
Yeah. I'm sure a duck ate it, but that duck had a good meal.
Yeah.
Don't stab me with your goddamn fin, then we won't have no problems. Anyway, you was talking about that there Like a Dragon. You go ahead and talk about that.
I really, and that's the game is just really good. I feel like most of the specifics that I have on the game involve some level of spoiler, which I will obviously not get into here. But the game is just, if you have played Like a Dragon, the one that came, or I guess the Yakuza Like a Dragon, this is definitely everything that is good in that game is amped up even more in this one. The story is great. And even if you haven't, I played that game a long time ago and just kind of went through and watched her, story recap and was able to jump into this one and be pretty clear on everything that had gone through. So it is a excellent game.
I have to give that a try sometime.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like you would have by now, but have you started to unlock the jobs?
Yes, I think the jobs is the chapter before, either at the end of 4 or beginning of 5. So, and a lot of the jobs I'm having a great time with. So one of them is an Aquanaut and uses surfboards as his weapons and has a surfboard with a jetpack on it that I just found in one of the dungeons. And then I have the dancer that uses maracas, and I gave her these sunflowers that I found. So it's her just slapping guys on the street with flowers, and a lot of just really fun kind of combining the different jobs already, where I can see like really getting lost and just grinding out all these jobs and finding fun combinations of them.
They got any jobs where you like put a roof on a house or anything like that?
I think one of them uses
Island,
a crowbar.
All right. Well, you get a crow. All right.
Yeah,
that sounds like the job out for me. All right. Now I can see that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The job unlock cutscenes are some of the best things that I've seen in a while. They're all just immaculate. I love it.
I have to try me that there like a dragon. That sounds up my alley. I tell you what.
Yeah, you should.
All right.
Yeah, I really want Justin to finish it so that we can do a spoiler cast.
Well, you know him. I tell you what, he just fucks around a lot. I tell you that. You know that guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he loves him a simulator.
He does love him a simulator. Let me tell you.
Yes.
I mean, he likes a lot of things, but sometimes he just gets doing nothing. You know, I mean, I've been getting to know him over the past couple months ever since I was on the show the one time. You know, we hung out and he helped me put a tire on a trailer. It was a whole thing.
Nice of him.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't really help as so much as watch me do it, but that's all right. I mean, sometimes that moral support's all you need, you know? I mean, if you can make a living being moral support, you should do that. That's pretty good. You know, if you can get paid to do that.
I think they call them life coaches.
Life coaches. All right. I like that term. I had to steal that one. Craig, you being a life coach again. Need to get off your ass. We got this goddamn lawnmower up on the lift. I mean, you know him. He ain't gonna do nothing. He's over there obsessing about Diane again. I tell you what, Diane, don't even get me started about Diane. I swear.
Okay. Sounds like a touchy subject.
It's a little, I mean, Julian, I tell you, no, you know what? Let's let bygones be bygones. I don't got much nice to say about that there Diane. I mean, listen, Craig, he's in love with that there Diane, but Diane Julian, excuse my parlance. She is not a good lady. All right. She's just not a good lady. I put that as nice.
Spicy dialogue there.
That's not what I wanted to say. I held it back. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, she goes out with a lot of other dudes too, and then Craig sees it on Facebook or whatever the hell, and she's out there. She's getting money so she can fix her side by side, so she can go down to the crossroads and buy Oreos and such. It's a whole goddamn thing, and. That side by side, she don't need that goddamn side by side. That's too much side by side for her. Tell you what, I don't like Diane. Every time I see her on that side by side, I just want to throw a rock at her. Tell you what, but I don't because that's against the law.
That.
That's against the law. The Colburn Police Department, they will come tell you, hey, you can't be throwing the rocks at people to side by side. All right, you can't do that. I know you don't like them, but you can't do that. And I'm like, all right, well, I didn't hit him.
Society.
It's a whole thing.
Well, let's see. I guess real quick, while it's on my mind. So I was going through, and I guess I didn't understand what was going on because the Xbox 360 digital store is shutting down. Actually, I think it'll be closed by the time this episode goes up. But I guess that's actually only for the 360 itself. Like if you wanted to buy something digitally there, it doesn't apply to the stuff that's like backwards compatible that can be played on the Xbox One or Series consoles. But even so, like I was like, well, let me go through and see what's available, for like as far as 360 games that's on sale. Cause a lot of the stuff went on sale. And I have a brand new Xbox 360 that I've never set up, and I was like, I'm not going to go through the trouble of doing that because like I've got pretty much the stuff that I want. I can't really think of any like digital only games that I never got back in the day that I really want now. So that was a big deal. But one of the things that was deeply discounted was DuckTales Remastered,
all right,
which I never touched. I don't think I even really looked at reviews or anything at the time. which is a remake. It's really a remake. It's not a remaster. It's a full up remake of the original Nintendo DuckTales game from Capcom. This was developed by Way Forward. And it's gorgeous art, like they did a great job with like the look of it and everything. Level design wise, like it's, cause I played the shit out of DuckTales, like back in the day. So like, I can definitely tell like, oh no, that's where that's supposed to be, this and that. But I'll be damned if they did not ruin this game by just bogging it down with shit. Like, I could not believe it. Like, it starts off with like a new like intro level. It's like a tutorial level that takes place like in Scrooge's, like money bin. And there's a whole bunch of like dialogue that's now voiced. It's voiced from like, they got all the original voice actors back, from the cartoon, which on one hand, it's cool. It's cool to see, like hear all those voices again. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, it's like this game where back in the day, it's like you would hit start, select a level and go and then just play.
Right.
Is now like stopping you like every few steps for exposition and to tell you how to play the game.
Well,
and
I mean, you know what they say, life is like a hurricane.
Yeah.
I mean, Darren Duckburg,
Yeah. It's a very cynical type of thing. Like it I always think about, there was like that meme where it was like, if Super Mario Brothers was made today, and it's like, 1-1, but like there's pop-ups all over the place, and it's like stopping you to tell you like, how to press the A button to jump and stuff like that. Like that's the level of egregiousness here. And I got through the tutorial level. I was like, okay, like that was the intro. It's fine. Let me go pick the Amazon, because I always start with the Amazon. And I start the Amazon, and it's got a cutscene that leads into it. I'm like, oh my God. And then I was playing it, and then I pick up a coin, and it stops the game because like Scrooge is talking to Launchpad on a walkie-talkie. And I'm like, and that happened like 3 times. And I was just like, no, I don't want to play this. I wish that there was like a button where you could just like change it to the original NES version and just play that.
That'd be all right. I mean, maybe we need some different talking ducks in video games now. I mean, the DuckTales crew, we got to move on from them. It's time.
It is time.
Was any of the stuff they added like funny or fun or is it, just really generic video game dialogue boxes like read to you by these characters?
I mean, it's done with the same like level of flair and it feels like a DuckTales episode. Like they're definitely like, doing a good job of like evoking those characters and everything like that.
It's just in the way of the game.
It's so in the way and like really kind of unnecessary. And like, I would have been fine with like, okay, because it's like a new story setup. Because if I remember the original right, I think it's just that Scrooge is on a treasure hunt competition with Glomgold. That's it, right? Like, they're just like hunting for these treasures, and Scrooge is trying to get there first. That's the setup. That's all you need.
Right.
Go.
I mean, that sounds like something he would do. So yeah.
Yeah, and here it's like a lot more setup and everything, and I would be fine with like if, okay, you have this new intro, but I think it was the actual like constant interrupts, like in the actual level where I was just like, I don't need this, and it's like really disrupting the flow. And really what I need to do, like if I really want to replay that game, is they have that like the Disney like Saturday morning collection that, I should just get that instead. I did. It was funny though, because there's an option that is checked on by default, and I noticed it, where it was easy pogo, and I was like, what do you mean easy pogo? And I realized that like you can just like, when you jump, just hold down like the X button and he'll do the pogo jump, where I was just instinctively pressing down and the X button.
All right.
Because like I'm just, that's my muscle memory.
Right.
I was like, I'll just turn that off, because I want to do it like the real way. Yeah. But then I was like, I don't actually want to play this anymore.
Well, you're allowed to move on. Julian, do you think they will remake their Total Recall game for the NES?
No, I don't think they will.
Well, that's good, because it was a piece of garbage. So I was checking. I was hoping nobody would ever have to play that game again. My mamaw had that game, and I tell you what, it was. I didn't really understand what was happening in it or what you were supposed to do, but it certainly was a game she bought at the 5 and dime. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. I say that, but at the same time, I could see a really terrible doomsday scenario where Limited Run Games releases a physical collection of those really bad LJN NES movie tie-in games.
Oh boy, I tell you what.
Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Total Recall and Terminator 2.
Oh
and just
boy.
put them all in one collection. I could see that.
Yeah, well, I hope I'm dead before that happens. I tell you that right now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I might actually just go ahead and like usher myself along if they announce that.
Right.
Nope. I'm no longer fit for this world.
Yep.
This has gone too far.
Yep. I might just, I don't know what I'll do. It
Yeah.
won't be a good day for old Jacob, I'll tell you that right now.
I believe it.
Yep. I mean, I don't have to play it, Julian, but the fact that it exists will bother me. I mean, that would truly be the end of the world situation for me, is if like all the games in the world would disappear and it would just be the Total Recall game for the NES.
And I feel like at this point, if it happens, it will have happened because of this conversation. And
You
if
probably
this conversation
will.
has the power to spawn something, and that is what you inadvertently created, could you actually live with yourself?
Oh, absolutely not. No,
I mean, that's an impossible question there, Xavier. I mean, but who can say? Who can say? It'd be tough. I tell you what, I'd have to take it one day at a time and see how I felt after that. I mean, I'd have to turn to music or drugs or some such. I don't know. One of them two.
Yeah.
Yep. On a brighter note, anybody else got anything else to talk about? Because oh boy, we got to get off of that subject. It's touchy.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. Well,
oh boy,
moving on to no, actually no, I because I haven't gotten that far yet.
All right.
I started playing Until Then at Justin's recommendation. Went ahead and picked that up on.
All right.
It's on PlayStation 5 for console, and Justin had said, gird yourself before you start,
Right.
because there's stuff in there that will be affecting for you.
Right.
He neglected to tell me that like just the beginning, like not even the beginning of the game, literally like there's a preamble before you actually get to press start,
Right.
and that made me cry.
Well,
Like,
I tell you what, I mean, he forgets sometimes, so
yeah, it happens.
Yeah, right.
I really, so I'm playing it kind of in small chunks. I'm kind of playing it like a chapter at a time.
All right.
I just got to chapter 3. Like I started chapter 3. So I don't have a lot to say about it yet. I'm kind of probably right about where Justin was when he first talked about it.
All right.
But I will say that like, because Justin had kind of, complained about kind of the mini games.
Right.
And when I went to go buy the game, in the description, it actually says play incredibly mundane mini games. So I think
Right.
that it's actually like a baked in, like they know.
I think
Right, like-
I think you're right, and most of them I think he thinks are fine. He was telling me about it before the thing. He thinks most of them are fine, I think, but some of them are just like it's more toward like the end. Eventually, you
Okay.
kind of get to where you're like, all right, I get it, but it's hard
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
I'm not him, so I can't speak for him.
Sure.
But, it's a whole
yeah,
thing.
I get
But right, but them mini games, I mean, they're tough to put in there. They tried their best, so
Yeah.
there's that.
And there's nice little flourishes. So, as we said in previous episodes, it's very much like a story-based game. It takes place in the Philippines. It's very, if you've looked at the game A Space for the Unbound, this is so similar. Like just as far as like tone and setting, and even like because both games have like weird shit happening,
Right.
and the effect of when the weird shit happens is almost identical. Like as far as
Little
like
bit,
what's
right.
happening on the screen, it's kind of weird.
Right.
To the point that it would not surprise me if I found out that like there were people that were working together on one of these games and then eventually split and started working on something else, but like they took some of those, they already knew, and whether on purpose or not, those ideas just ended up baking into the other game, because that's what it feels like. It feels like, both of these games like started at the same project.
I mean, you never know, but I don't think that's what happened. One of them is definitely pretty different once you get the actual like gist of what's happening, according to Justin. I mean, that's what he told me.
Sure. Yeah, I think just initially, like it's kind of amazing,
right?
But until then is like way prettier, and like I so far I'm enjoying like the characters more.
They got some good characters right there. I tell you what, right?
Kathy, the main
Kathy. I've heard some things about Kathy. She's Justin's favorite for sure.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Oh yeah,
I like. There's a lot of reasons why this can't be the case, and a lot of it is like the main character kind of wanting to get a girlfriend, and it's like you should date Kathy. You should date Kathy. And there's a lot of reasons why that can't happen or wouldn't happen. But I'm like, no, but Kathy though, you should look closer at Kathy.
Right.
She's amazing. But
I don't think Kathy's into that, but
she's bi. She
that is true.
Right. She definitely leans more towards girls, but she likes guys as well. So there's a chance.
But stay tuned. I'll tell you that much right now.
Sure. Yeah. I'll be playing all the way through it, but I just have like one last little thing to say, because again, I'm so early, but it was like such a great, because this game takes place in 2014, and there's this great little bit where you're supposed to give a presentation in front of your class.
Right.
And you're setting up a laptop with your presentation, and it's on a USB drive. And it's a little mini game where you have to line up the USB with the slot, and then you press the button to plug it in, and it doesn't go in. And so then you press a button to flip it around and plug it in, but it doesn't go in. And then you flip it again one more time to where it was initially, and then it plugs in. I'm like, that is so... That's so right. Like
that's a nice touch right there. I'll tell you what.
It was such a good little touch. And there's a lot of like great little touches like that.
Right.
And like it does a lot more flourish with the storytelling. So I know I'm comparing them a lot, but it's just because like, again, like
they're pretty comparable.
They're very comparable.
Right.
So like, A Space for the Unbound would do like the occasional like, oh, that's like a full screen, really pretty, like, like bit of like sprite animation of like these characters up close or whatever. But those were like pretty like few and far between, where Until Then is really like taking that and going a lot further with it. And so there's a lot more of like really detailed flourishes for like the more impactful story moments and stuff like that. And so I'm really digging it so far, and,
all right.
Looking forward to continuing with it. But I just picked it up the other day. I continue on a personal level. I'm continuing to wait for my work laptop.
Right.
And it would have been really nice if like I could have used all of this idle time to like clean up the house or organize shit or do this or do that.
You could have built a fence.
Man, I could have. There's a lot of stuff that I could have done.
You could have done a lot of things. You could have started a big old bonfire. Yeah. You could have learned about birds. There's a lot of birds you can learn about.
That's true. Yeah,
right?
No, but
I had a hummingbird in my garage the other day. Tell you what, can't get them out the garage once they're in there. It's the whole thing.
I'm sure they fly out eventually, right?
Well,
you open that door.
Well, they aren't the smartest animals in the world. Let me tell you. They got them real fast wings, but that's about all they got. It's a whole thing. And they'll just flutter around, fly by your head. It's a whole thing. You ever get a hummingbird stuck in your garage? It's a lot. I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. All the trees in my neighborhood are too young for that to be a thing yet.
Well, I tell you.
So, just the anxiety and stress of like knowing like so much stuff is piling up for me, for my job, and then also like and that causing my sleep schedule to get all out of whack. And so then it's like, you know, up until 4 a.m, sleep until my alarm goes off, and then turn my volume on to make sure that like I don't miss any calls or texts from work, and then kind of go back to sleep until, you know, I'm needed.
All right.
There's really not much that I can do. Like, that's really been a lot of it, is like, just it's going to be really rough to get back into the swing of things. It's almost like I got laid off twice this year, which is really weird, but at least I am getting paid. So I am very thankful of that, but it has been a chaotic mental time the last like 5 weeks, or almost 6 weeks now.
Right.
Shit. I've got so much I'm going to have to do, like, once I'm able to.
I know how that is. I had a chainsaw break on me one time with them two-stage chainsaws. I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
they them 2 stages, I tell you what, they get all gummed up because they got the oil and gas mixture in there, and it broke on me. I had all this wood I had to chop. I hear you, Julian. That's the whole thing, man. You don't want to get that far behind. I had to go.
No.
And then Lowe's was out of chainsaws. Of all the things to be out of chainsaws, I tell you what, the whole thing. They had to order it, and then I had to wait for the package to get there. Then it was the wrong goddamn chainsaw. I had to send it back. It was, I tell you what, it's a pain in the ass.
It is, yeah. I get it. Well, Jacob, before we move on, would you mind thanking some patrons with me?
Oh, all right.
Did
Yeah,
Justin leave you the
we
list?
can do that. All right. Tell you what.
Awesome. You know, we appreciate all of our patrons, but every week we like to thank the patrons at our executive producer tier. And this week we have Bookie.
We have Casey Curran. Yeah.
We have David Portnov.
We have Dennis Robertson.
We have Eric Peacock, new patron at the executive producer tier, friend of the show, host of the Soundtracker podcast, an overall cool dude. So thank you very much, Eric.
Well, that is just the sweetest thing. I'm glad to see a new one on there for y'all. That's really nice. We have X-Ren.
We have Joel Thoman.
We have Matt Jorgensen.
We have Philip P.K. Becker.
Now, where did you read that PK at? I don't see that on there.
Oh, it's implied.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
We have Stephen, I don't know Stephen Lobo.
And we have Xavier Kreiger.
Oh, he's right there. Well, I mean, he's always.
Thank you, Xavier.
All right.
Anytime, friends.
And if you are interested in what we do and supporting the show, you can go over to patreon.com and, or just, the easiest way is to just go through the link tree in the show description, in the show notes. And for as little as $1 a month, you can get, the shows 2 days early, and vote for the Suffer Select polls that happen every month. And then for the $3 and $5 tiers, you get access to bonus content, as we are able to produce it. Currently the main thing is the Suffer Select, where our lovely listeners, nominate games for us to, eventually play and suffer through and then discuss.
Well,
And as I said at the top of the show, next episode will be, Lady in a Leotard with a Gun.
it's a hell of a name right there. I tell you what.
Yeah. It's something. It's a mouthful.
I tell you.
Yes.
Well,
Let's see. Jacob, did you know, we didn't plan on having you on the show, but
Right.
have you been up to anything?
well, not a whole heck of a lot. I tell you what, before I say anything, Justin done made me one of these here buttons. And, I'd like to tell a story. He said, "Hey, Jacob, when you get on there, there's this one button on this thing. If you hit it, you got to tell a fact about this band named 311. Now, I don't know who that is. Julian, do you know who 311 is?
No, and I feel that week by week I know less about them than the week
Right.
before.
Well,
oddly
I
enough.
mean, that sounds confusing. I'm sorry that you have to go through that. But, well, so I said, well, I don't know nothing about that there 311, but I do know about that there Kenny Chesney. So I made him make me a Kenny Chesney button, and I'm going to press that there button.
She thinks my tractor's sexy.
All right. And now apparently I'm supposed to tell the fact about Kenny Chesney, which I did look up. Kenny Chesney was previously married to actress Renee Zellweger, but they annulled their marriage after 4 months in 2005. There you go.
Yeah, that sounds like a celebrity wedding.
Yeah, and I did not know that about that there Kenny Chesney.
I'm
I know
almost
he makes
certain that same fact applies to the lead singer of 311. So it really works as a double fact.
Well, I tell you
Right.
what, that is something. That 311, they must do a lot of things.
They
They
are
must have a lot of-
integral part of society.
I mean, maybe I should start listening to that there 311.
No, I don't think you need to.
Well, I
think
mean,
you're fine.
I'll ask about it. I'll look into
Yeah.
it maybe a little bit. But anyway, that's the Kenny Chesney minute. Thank you for listening to that.
Yeah.
All right.
She thinks my tractor sexy.
All right. Well, as far as video games, I haven't done too much with them. I mean, I've been working on them, obviously. I mean, that's the whole
Right.
thing. We're still working on that there 22 rifle. We're on a bit of a hiatus at the moment because Jeremy's, he got a job down there at the Food City. So, our programming, it's a little, it's spotty right now, but
Sure.
he's making a paycheck, I get it, but at some point we'll get back to work on that there.
Hey, indie game development is tough. Like,
I tell you
especially,
what.
if you have to work other stuff along, around like the
I mean,
actual game dev.
somebody's got to pay for them there Miller Lights, and it usually is me. That's why I'm the lead developer. Well, other than that, I did watch one of Justin's streams on there, and he was streaming that their XCOM 2 and the War of the Chosen. And I said, well, that looks like a fun game. You get out there and you shoot them there aliens. They're mean aliens. I tell you what, they just got weird faces and such. They're snakes and all that. And he's like, well, I asked him about it. He's like, well, you can just make some people. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just make some people around here. So I made Craig, I made Jeremy, made Glenn, made my whole team up and got out there, started shooting some aliens. And, it was fun. I turned that there Iron Man mode on. You ever seen that?
I've heard of it. That's pretty extreme.
Right. It means you can't, you are not allowed to save in the middle of it, which has been very frustrating for me. Because I'm not very good at the game. So I get out there and then I run a little bit too far, I think. And, them aliens, they go, there he is. There that boy is. And then they shoot Craig dead. And then I feel bad. So,
Yeah.
that's been my experience with that there XCOM 2. But I keep trying, and then eventually the game ends because they're like, you fucked up too many times. And I'm like, well, and they're like, well, and so now and then I make a couple more people and then I start over again. It's a vicious cycle that there XCOM 2, I tell you what.
So I haven't played the XCOM games, but
All right.
that's kind of built into the experience, right? Like they kind of expect you. It's not a run-based game, but they kind of expect you to start over. Like
it does seem
in
that
your
way.
overall play time, right? Like
It
that's
does
kind
seem
of
that
the
way.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on that there Iron Man mode, because if you have that on, you're gonna fuck up. And you can't undo it. You can't just go, well, let me go back a couple turns and we'll fix that right up. No, you fucked up and now you are dead. And you lost your whole team that was all leveled up and such. And now you can't do nothing.
Is there much of an incentive to keep your team alive? Like, if you have a character that stays alive level over level, do you feel a difference between them and like a newer character?
Well, I tell you what to do. In that there War of the Chosen, they got little things where you have to have them a certain rank to be able to do it. So to enable to hunt them there Chosen, you have to be like a lieutenant or a captain, and then you can go on those missions and you can find where they're hiding at and go shoot them in the head. But you can't shoot them in the head if you don't know where they're at. And then if you don't got no soldiers that are, captains or whatever, then you can't find them. It's a vicious cycle. Xavier, tell you what, it ain't great. That's XCOM 2. But it's really fun. I keep playing it, I keep trying. And that's kind of my goal right now. I'm like, well, one of these times I'm going to get it right. Tell you that right now. I put a mod on there. Lets me play as the Halo man. That's fun. He goes out there. He's like, I'm Master Chief. And I'm like, yes, you are. And then he gets shot and killed. And I'm like, well, he tried his best. You know what he going to do?
You were Master Chief.
That he was. Now, that game, I will say this. It's a little bit janky. It will crash it from time to time. And people will just phase through walls. And sometimes on certain difficulties, it is utter bullshit. What they will throw at you. I've noticed that. They'll be like, here's some zombie men, and here's some regular men, and they're all hating you, so get fucked. And I'm like, well, all right, I guess I will. But anyway, I'm having a good time playing that there. He also played some other weird-ass game about running a store. What was that one? I am part-time worker. Now I guess the man has a store, and he goes there and he works there, and lots of people break his things. That's what it seems like. So you got to hit them with a stick. Is it a crowbar? All right. Yeah. And you got to scan items, and people throw the items at you. That's the whole thing. Yes.
I had been really on Justin to play this because I wanted to see
that
him react to it. And I was really because his XCOM's like broke.
Yeah, he did not have a great go with that. I tell you what.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh well, time to play I Am Part-Time Worker, and so I got him to like get it and play it on the stream. And I was happy to see it because like it was what I was hoping for, with the exception of, so like after you, and I didn't know it was this way because like I guess I missed this part when I watched Bay play it, but you go through the prologue and then you choose like the length of the shift that you want to work.
Right.
Justin picked the 15-minute shift, and what I noticed in that is that because the game I think is it's gonna like kind of tell its narrative, whatever. It's not a narrative. It's going to go through its paces no matter what. But what happens when you're playing the 15-minute mode is that all of that starts to happen like super fast and all at the same time. Right. Where in the 60-minute version that I saw Bay play, it's a slower burn, and so it like kind of like at first it feels like a more like it's just like a sim, and then a couple weird things start happening, and she's you deal with it, and then it starts to ramp up and get crazier, and it gets more hectic.
That makes a bit more sense because what I think he was trying to do is I think he was like, well, I'll just go through one at a time, and I thought more would happen as he went through, if it has more time or whatever. I don't know what he was thinking, but he was just going to go through sequentially, I'm guessing. But he didn't do that, or well, he did do that, and so he didn't see the 60-minute one because he kind of was like, well, that's this game.
And I think he pretty much saw it, but I think it's because it just crams all of those events, or as many of those events as it can. I think there are some that are like kind of randomized, but like it crams like as many of those into whatever you're doing as possible. But if you're playing the 60-minute mode, it seems like that is the optimum. Like it spreads it out the way the way it's meant to be experienced and everything. It was still fun to watch him deal with it, and very shocking to see him instantly start profiling people and just like start preemptively like bonking people, like just because they looked sus to him.
Well, I mean, sometimes you can just tell somebody's trouble. I'm tell you what.
Yeah, but he was wrong most of the time. That's what made it incredible.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I think once you're 5-6 minutes into your shift, I think you start to know your clientele.
Yep. I mean, that's true.
But so a lot of times the guy wearing the traffic cones on his head and arms, he just wants to buy some mochi. Like he's not causing any
I
trouble.
mean, Julian, if you seen a man wearing a traffic cone, are you going to hit him with a stick or are you going to let him talk to you?
I'm probably going to let that dude do whatever, and I'm going to stay a respectful distance away.
I mean, that's fair. I ain't never seen nobody wear no traffic cone, so you right. All right. Well,
Man, now I kind of want to walk into a convenience store with a traffic cone on my head.
I
Just
mean,
to
you
see
could
what
do
happens.
it. You live in Texas. I mean, what are they going to say? Nothing.
No, they'll probably shoot me. I live in
Well,
Texas.
I mean, you can't see them shooting, or you can't see them pointing the gun at you because you will have
True.
a traffic
Yeah.
cone on
Well,
your head. So it'll be all right.
never see it coming.
Yeah, you never
it'd
see
be
it coming.
Yeah.
It's like that Persona song.
Yes, exactly like that Persona song.
Right.
Oh, I guess that's like the last thing that I had.
All right.
Well, besides what we'll talk about at the end. I just finished July for my Persona 3 Reload playthrough.
All right.
I didn't talk about it last month, but I've stayed on top of it. So it was actually kind of interesting because with the guide that I'm using, July was it was actually all like story and character stuff with the exception of a boss fight. So I had already done, I didn't have to do any of the Tartarus stuff this month. I don't have much to say about the game right now, more than I've said in the past, other than one observation, which is, playing it with a guide to do the optimal, get all of the social links up to max level in a single playthrough. There's you always have multiple answers to a social links questions or statements or whatever, and there's always one answer that's going to give you more points than another.
Right.
But what I've noticed with Persona 3, and I don't remember this for Persona 5, and I don't know if this is the intention of the character that you're supposed to be playing, but the optimal answers to max everybody out leans into the worst aspects of each of the characters. You are encouraging all of these people to do the bad shit.
All right.
To the point that I literally just told an elementary school girl that you should run away. Yeah, you should. That's a thing. That you should do.
Maybe you shouldn't be telling kids that. That doesn't sound like a great idea there, Julian.
You're right, Jacob.
Right.
Unless you want to max out her social link, which I do.
Well,
in the minimal amount of days. I definitely think that Persona 3, the protagonist, is much more. I think it's
unhinged.
Definitely unhinged. I think it's because he is, their first attempt at, a faceless protagonist that you can kind of empathize with. So they just kind of they go to each person and encourage them to do whatever they're already doing, and you don't change where they're going or what they're trying to do versus Persona 5, where you are much more an active character. So there's some stuff, especially with that younger character, and there's a guy that I think is introduced as a dying man later on that you're yeah, you should do this thing, and I don't want to tell him to do that thing, but I need those multiple little points, so
yeah,
right.
I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, your friend on the track team who's running injured, and your whole thing is no, you should continue to run injured. You got to do it.
I mean, you don't want to let the team down. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I played Persona 3
a lot
the
of
first
dynamic
time.
like that.
I played the first time without any kind of a guide or anything. So I did here's what I think the right choice is. And I remember really struggling with getting a lot of the personas to their end point within the time that I had.
Right.
Versus when I played Reload, I played it with a guide because I just kind of wanted to get to see everything. And yeah, a lot of those choices are not the choice that I would ever think to say.
Yeah. It flies in the face of almost every other game that I've ever played with any type of dialogue options. It's really weird. And then the only other thing is that I have now decided I do not like the soundtrack.
Well, some music just ain't good, Julian. I tell you what, it's not everything can be Kenny Chesney. All right.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
I think it's been fair to middling for me with most of the stuff so far. But there was a track because you do I got to the beach episode, right?
All right.
Where you go on vacation, and there's a part where you're trying to like pick up girls at the beach, and the song that plays there was nails on the chalkboard for me. And I was like, this is atrocious. Like, this is not just bad. This is awful.
Right.
And like, I texted Justin, I was like, yeah, man, I don't think I like the Persona 3 soundtrack.
Right. Well, some soundtracks ain't for everybody. I tell you what. I know it's got a lot of that there Japanese hip hop in there, which I don't know anything about, but I'm sure it doesn't sound too great. I mean, I barely like American hip hop, much less Japanese hip hop. Let me tell you,
it's not so much that as it actually is like composition. And I'm not digging, I forget her name, but like the main Persona singer, like I'm not digging her stuff very much at all in this game. But in particular, I think it's the actual like instrument, like the actual music part of it, like not necessarily like the singing or anything like that.
And there's a lot of the music in that game that for Reload, I know they changed what songs they did in a bunch of the areas. I have no idea. That one specifically, I don't remember when. Or if they changed it or not. I know when I originally played it, I played it on PSP, so I played it with the volume down a lot because I just, had
there
a
you go.
and was doing whatever. So I don't know about the change, but like the battle music and stuff, I think they changed a lot of, and like even the main theme is all different.
I think the final boss theme's pretty good if I remember right. I think somebody showed me that at one point. It's pretty good.
And there's definitely some stuff in there that I really enjoy. Right. But overall, I'm not digging it. And especially compared to Persona 5, my only other like comparison point, which that one, it's like,
that one's
I don't
real
know if there's
good.
anything in there I don't like.
Yeah, right. That one's real good. That's a high bar, I tell you what.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be curious because, so now that I'm like almost halfway through Persona 3, I definitely think that the optimal way to go, or the best thing to do, I think, for these games with these structures is to just kind of play it how you're going to play it with, and let the chips fall where they will, and then play it with a guide like a second time. Actually, no, not the guide. Actually, let me amend that. The way that I'm playing it, where I'm going like in real time, like playing it month to month, I think that works better if you're already familiar with the story. So I think that is better for a second playthrough. Yeah. So like eventually I will play Persona 4 Golden, and I think I'm just going to play it as a regular RPG, like beginning to end. Because one thing I'm running into, like picking it back up month to month, is like, right, what was going on? Like, who was that? Like, and I get up to speed, but I didn't have that problem doing it with Persona 5 Royal because I already knew the beats and I knew the characters. So it was very easy to jump back in there. And, as soon as I picked it back up for the month, like I remembered where I was. With this one, since it's my first time of seeing any of this stuff, there's definitely like a couple hours of like, yeah, I don't remember what was going on. Oh, and one last thing I'll say before we move on, that I appreciate is that now there's finally starting to be like, a hint of like a villain or a villainous presence and like kind of like why we're doing what we're doing, which the game was definitely missing for the first few, months of the story. And it's actually kind of cool because like, so the setup of Persona 3 is that there's this like extra hour that happens called the Dark Hour that most people aren't aware of. But if you are, there are certain people who either, I think they explain it as Persona users, but there's also like just some people that can just wake up during the Dark Hour. And so the villains that they've introduced, and they haven't actually like said who they are yet, but it's like a trio of people that are awake during the Dark Hour. And it's like, oh, right. Like if you were like aware during like this extra hour where like the entire world had frozen, you could do some ill shit in that time. And so that they're the exploration of that element of it. And that's like, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that because I was just looking at it from like we got to stop the shadows. We got to do the thing. Right. But it's like, oh right, you could fuck some shit up
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how you feel about the game as you get into that back half, because I think and this is kind of true of a lot of the Persona games, but I think the overall main story really picks up for 3 in that, and I think the beach episode kind of is like the first big turning point, because it starts to like, here's what is happening, and here is a couple characters that know a lot more than everybody else has known up to this point, and it kind of shifts into that. Are you coming across any kind of weird timing when you're going month to month? Like, I feel like because the months don't necessarily wrap up at the end of the month, where you like start, an episode like that, where it's like a week of whatever, and then you don't finish it because it, goes from the 28th to the 3rd or whatever.
Sometimes, yeah. So, I mean, there's obviously those parts where, like it just like you're at like the 27th and then it like moves into like the 3rd. So I'll just like, I'll just play until like it
gives you a save spot or whatever.
Yes, exactly. Now on this month, I will say that I didn't actually play to the end. I played to the 30th because I just didn't want to hit that next date. I'll deal with that next month. But this one actually has like a pretty, like, it's a nice clean thing. Like I said, like I didn't have to do any Tartarus stuff. Like I'm going to actually do that in the first week of August. So when I pick that up, I'm kind of debating on if maybe to kind of combat my, getting myself up to speed thing. If maybe with this playthrough, I should just go ahead and play it almost in real time, where like once a week I like play through the week, of gameplay, and do it that way instead of how I've been doing it, where it's like, okay, it is now my time to play through the month, and I'll play that over the course of like however many hours it takes me to do that. Right. So I think this was like a total of like 12 or 13 hours or so. Like, it's definitely more when it's a Tartarus month, because like, I'm spending a lot of time in there grinding for levels and money, and also just, because the guide is having me go through like as far as I can go, to the next like threshold basically. So we'll see. I might end up doing that like next week.
All right.
Is Tartarus less painful for you now? I know you like that first month would like to hit the goals that the guide set out for you was like a fight.
The last time was the best time. In the sense that, like, I actually had the money that I needed. And also, now that I have more characters, that's been the big thing, right? Is that I can switch out characters to kind of conserve. It's like, okay, this character's running low on SP. Instead of using items on them, let me switch them out for someone who's fresh and deplete them. And then I'll decide, okay, who is actually the most effective for these floors because of, like, their magic. And I'll use the items on them. So that's been better. Also, now I'm getting like a lot more Twilight fragments. So if I need to completely replenish at the clocks, I can do that. So it has been better. The funny thing though, is that the last 2 times that I've gone into Tartarus, I've done the fortune thing to get the gold enemies to appear. And I have not been able to kill a single goddamn one of them. So it's been like, well, I just threw that money away. Where the first time that I did it, or the first 2 times I think that I did it, like I was able to kill every one of the gold enemies that I encountered, so it actually ended up being like really worth the money. So that's been kind of weird, and I don't know if I'm going to do that the next time that I go in, but we'll see, because it's definitely, I've been trying to do my best to not spend money, and the guide that I'm using is weird because it won't outright tell you when to go buy equipment. But it always says, like, be sure you have, like, over 100,000 yen when you're done with the Tartarus run. And a big part of that is because they want you to be, like, pulling out, like, certain personas for social links. But I'm also getting to the point now where I'm going to start to max out certain social links. So that might not be as big of an issue, because I can just have, it's like, once I've maxed out a social link, I don't need that persona on my person at any time. So I can like let them go or whatever. So we'll see. I have been trying to, like, instead of paying money to pull out a specific arcana, I've been like, well, what can I fuse to get me to that arcana? And then use that and then wait until I absolutely have to, spend the money to summon a specific one. But no, it has gotten better in the last couple of runs.
Yeah, and that's what, whenever I played it, because I also followed a guide, so it would have, here's all the personas that you need to have. And so I would scroll through, okay, when's the next date I'm going into Tartarus or going into a boss fight? Look at which socials I was going to do during that time and trying to, okay, as I'm fusing going through Tartarus, trying to make sure that I can get as many of them as possible so that I didn't have to spend that money to pull out the different personas, which saved just enough money that I started kind of banking little bits of money. So by the time I was on the fourth or fifth section, that time on, I kind of stopped having issues getting the amount of money and getting the amount of experience and whatever. Whereas I remember that first one was the one that I really struggled because you have, 2 party members and very limited access to options of what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got about 87,000 yen right now. And, with me about to go into Tartarus, and I'm good on items right now. So that means that it should be quite a bit easier to pass that 100K threshold by the time I'm at the end. Now, I don't think the guide has stopped recommending a level that you should be, which that bothers me because I want to be sure that I'm not behind the curve. I was very smart to put my 2 weakest characters in for the boss fight because they ended up going up 4 levels in that boss fight, which was great because they really needed some catching up to do. So yeah, we'll see. The interesting thing about this game is that I have no idea who the party is. So I'm not actually sure who's going to join next, and that's kind of a fun thing. Yeah. I'm not too jazzed about the character that just joined, but whatever. I haven't used them in battle yet. I'm just all right, this is weird even for Persona, but okay.
All right.
Is it the character you meet on the beach?
Yes. Yeah. I'm just this is okay. I guess we'll see. It's definitely interesting. I heard something recently about Metaphor ReFantazio, which I did not realize, which is that the main character is completely voiced.
Really?
Oh, all right.
Actually voices their dialogue, and I'm stoked for that. Because that's what I want for Persona 6 is yeah, let me pick the dialogue, but then I want to hear the character say the dialogue. I would appreciate that.
What's the name of that there game? Metaphor ReFantazio?
Yep. You got it. You got it in one.
Wow.
That's a word salad.
Huh. What will I think I done had too many Miller Lights, I tell you what.
You're fine.
I think you've inadvertently stumbled onto the first stage select merchandise that you need to do, which is just some of the games that you guys play and what will they think of next.
Right. I tell you what. Well, I need to go to the bathroom again. I'll be right back. All right. Don't you move. All right. Don't y'all be here when I get back. All right.
No, yeah,
we'll hang out.
We'll keep it going.
All right.
Don't worry about it. Oh shit! It's Justin again. It's weird coincidence there.
I know.
Hello.
Oh, hey man, how's it going?
Not bad. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay?
How's the show going? You guys almost done?
Good. It's good. Yeah. Honestly, if you want to take next week off, you can do that too.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh well. Okay. I might. I'll think about it. Yeah. I mean, I could do that.
Yeah.
You sure I can take next week off? I mean, I can. I can show up. I got buttons. I can hit buttons.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about it.
All right. Okay.
I'm kind of really digging the vibe that me and Jacob have. I don't know.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, he's a nice guy. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool.
He likes he laughs at my stuff. It's kind of refreshing.
He's very polite.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, all right. Well, I'm gonna go drink, I guess.
You could go drink.
Yeah, I've been hanging out with Obramo while the podcast was going. He came over and he was like, "Hey man, I got this butterfly knife," and I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Obramo, did you walk here?" And he was like, "Yeah," and it was a whole thing. Then he left. I don't know why he left. It was weird. But he did show me his butterfly knife. It's cool. It's got a curved blade on it and the whole thing. I used to have one of those myself. I bought it at a flea market. So
That doesn't shock me at all.
no, it doesn't me either. Yeah. Anyway, well, I'm gonna go and let you guys, finish up or whatever the hell you're doing. I don't know what you're doing.
Okay.
All right. Well, see ya.
All right. Thanks, Justin. Bye.
Bye.
Well, I feel refreshed. Tell you what, thanks. I'm glad your bathrooms are so nice. I just have to compliment you. This is a nice little setup you got here. I mean, it makes me feel right at home. I'm glad y'all boys let me on here. This is nice.
Yeah. Really, really proud of the Stage Select Studio and the people that we have working here.
Right.
It's
Well,
nice.
I have to come back sometime. You have to let me come back and, help y'all do this here show,
Absolutely.
All right.
For
All
sure.
right.
Well, Jacob, unless you have anything else, Xavier and I have one last thing before
All right.
we kind of
You boys go
wrap
right
things
on
up.
ahead. I tell you what.
All right. Well, Xavier and I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, the movie,
All right.
the motion picture. And so I'll just say up front, we don't intend for this to be a spoiler discussion. However, if you don't want to hear anything about it, like if you want to go in completely, without any of our notions about it or anything like that going in your head beforehand, look at the show notes and skip on to questions, comments, and concerns, which will be the last section of the show. Having said that, Xavier, what did you think?
So kind of a quick table setter, kind of my quick history with Deadpool and with the MCU. I have been a huge MCU person. I love them for the entirety of kind of the original rollout of the phases. And even though I think that they've kind of been a little bit more hit and miss the past couple of years, like I think a lot of people, I am still pretty positive on most of the MCU stuff that's come out. I was somebody that was a big defender. Like I really enjoyed the Marvels whenever that came out. Like I thought that was a really good time. Even though they've had, like Quantumanium was one that didn't really work for me as much, but even that, like I had a good time with. Deadpool is one that I actually don't have much of a history with. I don't have a huge history with the character himself, and even like the Deadpool movies. I saw the first one, had a good time with it. Never got around to seeing the second one. I've heard good things about it. I think after this, I would like to try to go back and see it. With Deadpool and Wolverine, I had a great time pretty much from start to finish. I think that the movie has some like flaws that you can get into with some of the story structure and some of like here is the overall, plan of what we're doing and what's happening and where we're going and why we're going there. But I at no point cared about any of that because I was just laughing constantly and like shocked constantly. I think something that I will stay away from any spoilers, any specifics, anything like that. But something that shocked me was the amount of love and respect that the movie had for Deadpool, Deadpool's history, for Wolverine and Wolverine's history, and even some of like the other Fox flagship movies. We had 20 years of all these movies from this other studio that are kind of being swept away. And I think this movie does a good job at being like, there were some misses there were some issues, but there was also like a lot of great things that happened, especially if you look at the time in which it came out. Just top to bottom, I had a great time with the movie. And it made me like want to go back and just think about all this stuff, especially at the, there's a part in like the credits where it has some like behind the scenes footage of stuff that like you really remember, where Logan has been, where Deadpool has been throughout this history and kind of how we've gotten here. and like it really got kind of emotionally got me with some of that stuff. So yeah, overall a great time. Highly recommend it. How'd you feel about it?
I think I don't want to say it's a bad movie. I think it's a bad story, but I had a blast. I think it's a bad story, but phenomenal fan service. Like I had a blast with it. Like I thoroughly enjoyed like the movie. I think it is exactly what I feared it would be, which is because Deadpool. I know you didn't see the second one, but so Deadpool 1. Right, like they made it on a relatively shoestring budget for a superhero movie because like they barely got it done because like Fox just did not want to make this movie, and then it went on to be like a massive hit, and so the director of Deadpool 1 was like, all right, well let's go huge, and Ryan Reynolds was like, no, the reason that we were successful is because we kept it small, and so he actually fired the director, and they scoped. They kept Deadpool 2 scoped pretty small as far as like superhero movies go. And it told this really good, like kind of surprisingly heartfelt story for a character that's like, all about the yucks and stuff like that. But at the same time also had like some incredible action. It's one of the John Wick directors. So of course, and also just like, like a very simple, like entertaining movie where this with like the Disney money and it being folded into the MCU, very bloated and overdone and like a lot of stuff in there just to do it. But at the same time, like Ryan Reynolds is incredible. Right. And like, even though like I'm tired of Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine and I am hungry for like a new person to play Wolverine. And also I felt that like Logan was like the perfect send-off for that character. They actually did a great job of, making this movie not only make sense, but also be justified. Right. I think that was my thing. It's like, oh man, this is going to feel weird. And I actually heard something interesting today, which is that Kevin Feige had actually met with Hugh Jackman and said, no, you should not play Wolverine again because Logan was like the perfect capstone. And it ended up being like Ryan Reynolds, like going to Hugh Jackman and saying, hey, like I always wanted, like, we never really got to do the thing. Like, why don't we do the thing? And I'm glad they got to do the thing for sure. I think, I think my thing to get into like my issues with the movie and what I liked about the movie also, I have to kind of explain like my problems with like the MCU post Endgame. And I think they've made 3 big mistakes. One is that in Endgame itself, them keeping the 5-year time skip was a huge mistake. Like I think that caused like way more problems than they even like anticipated, about like what this means for these characters and the world and everything like that. Like we are now, I don't know how many movies past Endgame, and I still don't know what the status of the Avengers is. Like I don't understand what the Avengers are anymore, or if there are Avengers anymore. Like if there's actually a team called the Avengers at this point. The other thing is the TV shows. Like I think that was too much. I think like, and I enjoyed most of them. It's too much. And also like, I think my big problem with a lot of the TV shows and a lot of the movies actually, like post Endgame, have been to trivialize everything that happened in the beginning of the stuff. Like, like they've really like gone out of their way to make Thanos a joke or the Infinity Stones a joke, or, like I think there's certain aspects of like things that like the public in the MCU is aware of that I don't think they should be aware of. Like this is super nerdy shit, I know, but the MCU is very important to me. The comics are very important to me, and like I definitely think that there's been like some, like, I straight up hate the TVA. I understand that I guess it is in the comics at some point. I think that's definitely like after I stopped reading Marvel comics. But the way that they're implemented in like I watched the first season of Loki and I hated it. I didn't even bother with the second season, and them being like a big part of this. It's like, that was like a really annoying. Well, here's the thing. And so this will be like the small, this is at the beginning of the movie. So it's the smallest spoiler. But they kind of go out of their way to show, and I guess you wouldn't know that, but so at the end of Deadpool 2, like Deadpool goes on this whole like time travel bender because he has Cable's device. And he does a whole bunch of really funny shit, and he fucks with like a whole bunch of timelines. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty smart. That's how they're going to like justify this. It's like, no, they throw that out immediately. And I'm like, what? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that all the TVA stuff in this movie doesn't work. Like,
yeah,
they have to do it because they have to have like a path for him to get where he's going, and you know they have to get him to the place. But all the stuff with those characters, there's like a whole subplot with one of the like big characters from the TVA that the second you start asking questions about it, like it completely falls apart.
Yeah.
What is their plan? How is their plan supposed to work? Other characters come in at the end of it that are from the TVA that is like, okay, then at what point did this plan have any kind of a runway to do anything? And yeah, I think a lot of stuff does not do anything. And you definitely have to adjust your expectations in this movie that like it really is a gag and cameo and like fan service delivery system.
Yes.
You know, it's like the density of it for that stuff is like non-stop. But even with like the speed at which it's coming out, I mean, for me, 95% of like the things that were thrown out did usually work.
Yeah, same for me. Yeah, and that's why I say that. Like, I think the story is bad, but like I had so much fun with it that it kind of doesn't matter. And you know, as much as I don't like all the other TV shows and movies kind of making fun of like what came before, I'm cool with Deadpool making fun of it, right? Like that's his whole thing. So that a lot of that stuff, like most of that stuff really worked. And yeah, like there's cameos in here that and they're not even cameos, like they're like major characters show up in this movie for big parts of the movie that I was blown away by and like was not expecting, and it's kind of a double-edged sword for some things, because like you know, I think a big part of it is like this is like the send-off of the Fox Marvel universe, like at all. But the problem with that is that it also reminds me, you know, how bad the Fox X-Men universe was at adapting the X-Men. And that's especially, this isn't the movie's fault, but it's especially bad for me coming, like since I'm like now almost all the way through Chris Claremont's run of X-Men. Like I'm like 10 years in of his like 16-year run. So it's like I'm very intimately, you know, acquainted with way more X-Men lore than I ever was before. And it's like, oh yeah, man, they fucked that up, and they fucked this character up, and goddamn. And I just be kind of reminded of that. It's like, yeah, but what if it was though? Like, you know, even within, you know, the course of the movie, right? Because obviously one of the big things is Wolverine finally puts on the suit. But even within like the context of the movie, Deadpool's still making fun of the suit. And I'm like, no, don't make fun of the suit. Like this, no, like this,
yeah,
you know, like little things like that.
There's a
like,
lot of cases of like, you have their cake and eat it too, where they'll make fun of a thing and then they'll immediately do a thing. But I really, something that surprised me was the willingness to like really go at Marvel and Disney.
Yes.
Because I kind of expected them to curb that back a little bit, but like they really do light into some of the Marvel Disney stuff. And then you'll even like, they'll follow it up with, you know, oh man, Marvel's really digging into the graves of whatever. And then he'll like lean over and whisper, until you're 90, Hugh, until you're not. So it'll kind of go back and forth on what it's saying with that. But yeah, I really did end up having just like a fun time. The one thing I do want to kind of throw out as a non-spoiler thing, because I remember I had certain expectations of this movie, because I remember that Kevin Feige gave an interview where he said something about, you know, the impact that the different movies have on the MCU, and, you know, Endgame was a 10 and Deadpool and Wolverine is like an 8. So I really expected this to like move the MCU needle towards like the X-Men and mutants and all that. I don't feel like, you know, and I won't get into any of the specifics, like it really does anything with the MCU.
No, it was surprisingly restrained in that. And again, I think it's because, and I think this is probably a Ryan Reynolds thing. I think he did want to pay homage to, this universe. Like literally that's the plot of the movie, is that like the X-Men universe is dying. Like it is decaying and it needs to be, it's ending. And so that I think is really the focal point of it. Cause yeah, like I did expect there to be like, okay, no, so this is how we fight. Cause we're still trying to figure out how mutants, factor in to the MCU equation. And we still don't have answers other than the fact that there have been a handful of them just kind of randomly popping up. But like, it's kind of a weird thing. I'll be curious to see how they end up finally shaking that out. I saw a thing today as a headline. I don't know if it's true or not, that said that there's a Wolverine versus Hulk movie in development. And if that's true, that would be the perfect way to introduce the new Wolverine, because that's also how Wolverine was introduced.
Yeah.
Originally. Mm-hmm. So that would be kind of cool. And then, you could almost let him have his own couple movies and then start an X-Men movie franchise separately. And then he comes in, like, that type of thing. My hope is that if they do when they do X-Men again, that it's not Wolverine as the star and leader of the X-Men. Cause like, fuck that. He's always the best when he is the gruff standalone guy who deep down really cares about the team and is going to come along and everything, but he's going to grump about it. Like that is like my favorite Wolverine. I don't like it when he takes a leadership position or like a focal point. But anyway, and I guess one other like thing is that like the villain in the movie is from the Grant Morrison New X-Men run, and I fucking hate that run. So like that was a problem for me. But having said all that, the fan service is fucking great. And it's not even just like, callbacks or cameos or anything like that. You saw this in the trailer. Obviously, Wolverine and Deadpool are going to fight. But when they have that first fight, there are parts where if you pause it, it is key frames of animations from fucking Marvel vs. Capcom Wolverine. Yeah. Like, he does fucking moves, like special moves and melee attacks from Marvel vs. Capcom, and it's Hugh Jackman doing it, and it looks so fucking cool.
All right. Yeah. That sounds all right.
There's so much attention and love in the small moments that, like, it really... It's something that's like, okay, if you are of a certain age and you're watching these movies, like, you have invested time in all these other movies before it. So, since the, 1999, kind of when we got this wave of your, the original X-Men and like all these type of movies that kind of this next era of superhero films, if you have been throughout and, trying these movies, watching these movies, playing video games, like paying attention to the behind the scenes chatter of like different characters and cameos that were dropped that never got picked up, like you have just been around for all that. Like, I'm seeing all this chatter about like, what do I need to have watched? What do I need to read or see? I feel like the movie can work for anyone, but it is like specially designed that if you grew up paying attention to superhero properties in the 2000 to 2024, like, this movie is specifically aimed at those people. And it's like a reward of like all the time you have invested of, reading articles on comicbook.com and whatever else, like all the threads being dropped. Like, if you paid attention and were around for that, like, they're going to give you so much in this movie.
Yeah, there is a long going gag in Deadpool and Wolverine that is completely based around, do you pay attention to comic book movie rumors? And have you done that for the last 15 years? Then this is for you. And it's such a weirdly specific thing, and they nail it, but it's like, most people aren't going to get this. And we were talking briefly before the show, but that's something I did want to say is that I think if you're seeing this in a theater, your enjoyment is going to hinge a lot on how with it the audience is. Because even though I saw it on like opening night, or I guess a soft opening, really, it's usually Friday, but now they do the Thursday screenings. Even though I was seeing it with that crowd, I could tell that they didn't they knew MCU stuff. Like, they were definitely reacting to MCU stuff, but anything that was referencing like the Fox stuff, that didn't hit nearly as well. And so there were certain like big pop-off moments where I was having to contain my shit because like nobody else was popping off and I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah, and I saw it yesterday as well, and I was pretty lucky in that there was a section of people across the theater, all of whom were like in it. So,
yes,
they would have whatever joke, and like these 5 people all scattered across the theater were like cracking up. And then you could like, I went with somebody and they kept looking at me and they're like, is there a joke happening? Like what is going on? And I'm just like losing it over these little moments.
Yeah. And then I should also say, Hugh Jackman, still great in the role. Like he pulls on some of that Logan energy where, he's really bringing like a really good, like, tortured humanity to this version of Wolverine. And, Ryan Reynolds, I really hope that he continues to play Deadpool in the MCU because, like, you could make a case that, like, this is, like, the end for Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool because it's such a, like, send off into the sunset for, like, this entire movie franchise. But at the same time, he's the thing that you want to, like, continue on into the MCU proper, because he's just so great in the role and he clearly loves it. Like, he goes like just every movie, like he goes above and beyond for the marketing and just doing the zaniest shit in that costume. And he clearly does not mind like putting that suit on where, so many of the other actors are like, it seems like, and they get to a certain point where like, yeah, just green screen it on me. Come on. Like, I don't want to squeeze into this thing anymore. Where Ryan Reynolds just seems like stoked to always put it on. I don't know.
Yeah. I've really loved watching the marketing for it because so much of it is just like, look at, Ryan and at Hugh and like, look at how much fun they're having. That's like
yes.
Most of the marketing is just like, we're going to take the 2 of them, send them somewhere, put them on a talk show, put them on a whatever, and just like let them have fun.
Yes. Man, let me buy the Deadpool butt cheek controller, Microsoft. Why is that just a contest thing?
Yeah.
So stupid. Yeah. Everybody would buy that. But no, I do recommend it. I did enjoy it. Again, just for me, there are some caveats, but I do recommend seeing it as soon as possible and trying to avoid spoilers however you can, because there's shit in there that my jaw dropped. I could not believe it. And it was like really cool. Again, pure fan service, right? Like, I want any of the mutant stuff or any of the X-Men stuff to be treated really with care once it gets into the MCU. But I did enjoy like this, like, full send off for that stuff. And also just kind of reminding me like, yeah, I don't feel any particular need to revisit any of that stuff outside of like the other 2 Deadpool movies and Logan. Like those are stellar. Everything else is like, it was a time and place. I would probably still enjoy X2, but, and maybe First Class.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, that is Deadpool and Wolverine.
All right. Well, I just want to add that y'all, I don't know much about what y'all talking about. I was looking up late model stock car rules while y'all was talking. I'm sorry about that, but I just want to add that y'all is very passionate about these things, and that brightens my day. So, thank you for being, you. Thank you.
Yes. I think that's my thing about the stage select is that I hope that even if you don't, aren't intimately aware with what we're talking about, that like we're talking about it in such a way that you still find it entertaining.
Absolute. And I think y'all doing a good job on this here show. I just wanted to tell you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, you're welcome.
Well, before we get out of here, we have one last thing to take care of, which is questions, comments, and concerns.
Oh boy.
you can send in your question, comments, and concerns multiple ways. You can email us. Our email address is thestageselectpod@gmail.com. You can DM us on Twitter @stageselectpod. You can go to our Discord. The link to the Discord server is in the show notes on the link tree. And also, if you're a patron, you can comment on patreon.com. I will actually start with Patreon because it's the oldest, I think,
All
comment
right.
that we have right now.
Are
This
there
comes-
any about late model stock car racing? Because I can tell you a
afraid
lot
not.
about that right now. All right. Well,
No, I'm afraid not, Jacob.
I mean, round tube headers only, guys. Tell you what, don't try to use anything else. Can't do that.
Okay. I'll take that under advisement.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is a comment on episode 19, The Quest to End Boredom, and this comes from Andrew Wilson, who says, I went to a local mall recently. When I was a kid, this mall had a gold mine arcade, which was a treasure trove of arcade greatness. Later became a tilt during the fighting game era. The mall itself is ailing, but the arcade is now a tiny room with a 60-in-1 machine and a couple of aging claw games. The electronics boutique / GameStop where I bought so many games during my teens and early 20s, including my first pre-order, Parasite Eve, is vacant, though there are 2 other GameStops in this town. Man, I love, we talked about arcades in that episode, and like I forgot to mention, we had a gold mine in Highland Mall here, and I don't know if every gold mine was set up the same way, but the gold mine at Highland Mall was, the entrance was just like a normal, like, it was just like a regular sized door that said gold mine over it. And then that was like a long hallway that had like a couple machines like on the side and like, the change machines. But then it opened up into this like cavernous arcade. And so it felt like you were going into a mine. So I would imagine that's how most of them were set up. Yeah. But it's a very, especially when you consider like, now that I worked at malls, like it's a very interesting setup because like, I don't know how they actually pulled that off now that I think about it, but it was very cool.
All right.
And I loved Goldmine. I will say, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I've been to one of them there gold mines. Now, the one I went to, it was somewhere, I don't remember. I was very little when I went there. It was on the corner though. So it wasn't quite set up like that. It was a little bit more open, the one I went to, but it was a gold mine. And then later it changed to a tilt, I think.
Okay, yeah. This gold mine did not change to a tilt. I think it just closed.
All right.
Tilt was at a different mall in Austin.
I got you.
Yeah. And then I will say that like when I went to go see Deadpool and Wolverine yesterday, I saw it at Lakeline Mall, which was the mall where the store that I ran was at. And I definitely...
Y'all city folk in them malls, I tell you what, y'all got the movie theater in there and everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because the last time that I went to this particular mall, it felt like it was on its last legs. Right? There was like a lot of shit that was closed.
Right.
But actually, this time it was like most of the like store spots were occupied. Fucking FYE is still in business. I don't know how.
I mean, why not?
Insanity.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to buy a Dave Matthews Band CD somewhere. All right. And that's where they're going to do it. All right. Yeah.
I guess it's just, I don't understand why that survived and we lost Suncoast. Because I would much prefer to go to Suncoast.
Well, FYEs was for your entertainment.
Yeah.
They've pivoted to like all the t-shirt, or at least the one that we have where I live has pivoted into all the t-shirts and the like accessories.
Pops, probably.
Yeah.
It became one of them their pop culture stores, and that's how they moved,
Yeah, they only have like a small corner that has like DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff.
Right. Yeah, it ain't. There ain't much going on in there anymore.
Yeah. I did go down and look at my old store or where it was, and I wanted to go into the store that it was just to try to see if I could like suss out like where things were, but like felt like that might be a little bit creepy. But as it was, I was getting choked up just looking at it anyway. So it probably wouldn't have been a good idea. Now, I will say though that the food court, because I talked about this when we talked about the mall, the Lakeline Mall food court is very much like that, like weird food court where it's like stuff you've never heard of. Like it almost seems like it's out of like a cartoon where they can't use like the chain restaurant name, so they just come up with shit.
Right.
I should have taken the pictures of them because like I think one of them was like Texas Chicken Place was like one of them.
That's a great name. I know it's a Texas Chicken, and that's the place where you would eat the Texas chicken. I mean, that sounds good to me. If I was going to Texas and I was like, what is the chicken like here in Texas? That's where I'd go.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. It was nice. But yeah, and also walking around that mall, I definitely, I was struck with, I am now too old to like just wander the mall. But too young to walk the mall, if that makes sense.
All right. All right.
It is definitely a place for young people, or elderly people that just want to, like, you know, get some exercise.
They got to get their steps in some way.
Yet.
Yeah, they got to get their steps in some way, and it's nice. It's indoors. You can walk from the Pennies to the Sears and walk back again. I mean, it makes sense to me.
Oh yeah. I'm just, you know, I'm not quite there yet, so I felt very awkward.
Right.
You know, I'm the right age to be at the mall if I'm accompanying kids, but I don't have any kids, so yeah.
I understand that. Trust me.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to our Discord. First up, we have Poultrygeist Game. That's our friend Mike Fallick.
Oh boy.
Who says, if you could have the same budget as any top current review site, what would that game review site look like? Basically, with a huge budget, how would you make a modern online gaming magazine? And my honest answer is I wouldn't.
I mean, it seems like a bad idea to me.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, there's that there IGN, right? They're big. I mean, and they got a lot of what sells now is that they're clickbait titles. That's how you sell the news to people. And it ain't very good in that sense. So if you want to make an online magazine, I mean, nobody's going to really read that. I mean,
that's my feeling, is that I feel at this point, like, most people aren't really interested in reading articles on the internet. Cause my knee jerk reaction would be, oh, well, I would want to have like some really thoughtful, like, features and think pieces alongside the reviews. But people don't even want to read the reviews anymore. Like, they just want to get the score and like the summary.
That's pretty much it. Right.
And so then my thought is like, well, maybe I would shift to more of like a video format for everything. But, you know, I think that problem is twofold. One is that there's already so many people on YouTube doing it just fine. Right. And the other is that getting the right person. So I think the personalities that I would want, like if I could hire anybody, they're getting too old, including myself.
Right.
Right. But the young people coming up, I don't necessarily like the way that they choose to discuss video games, right? Like it's overly hyperbolic and aggressive and you know, and clickbaity. It's very clickbaity.
I mean, that's how you get people. I mean, you put that like basically the rage bait, as they call it, and you know, you make somebody mad. You say, maker of Mario will not let you punch a fish in his next game. You're like, I want to punch a fish. God dang it. And then you look at it, you know, you read the article and then it's like, well, he said, you know, there ain't punching in the game. And it's like, because the man jumps. And it's like, oh, well, that's not what you say. You know, it's a whole goddamn thing. The internet, constantly baffles me. But, you know, people, if you wanted to make like a magazine on the internet, I mean, you could do it. But like you said, Julian, I don't think there's really a market for it right now. You know, I mean, maybe there is, maybe I'm dumb, but I just don't think it's there.
Well, and I feel like so much of that space has been absorbed by the influencers and the TikToks and the whatever.
It's a different world now.
The closest that you're going to get to anything like a modern reviews website that doesn't just, you know, churn out clickbait, whatever, is like some of the podcasting networks, or like you see the equivalent of the same on like a YouTube, where it's different creators kind of come together, whether it's on one channel or multiple channels. And it's kind of the question is interesting because it's a question to make something that doesn't really have a place anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much
it. Yep. I just, like I said last episode, right? Like, as far as like video games writers go, gamers have spent the last like 15 plus years like actively eroding any faith that people have in them, or just tearing them down. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to be part of it. Like, I don't, I don't need that. Occasionally, like, I guess not really, the stage select audience is really cool.
Right.
And so they've been really, like, they're really kind to me, and I haven't really gotten any, like the handful of comments that we've gotten on our YouTube page for the podcast has been positive.
Well, that's good to hear.
But I think it's because that, like, even if I have like a quote unquote hot take, which I don't,
right.
I never intend to have a hot take. It's just like, I just say what I feel. And so, but it just turns out that a lot of what I feel about video games is not what most people feel about video games. But I think that because it's such a long format, right? And you get to hear me talk about it for 20, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, depending on what we're talking about, that hopefully I get my points across in such a way that even if you don't agree with me, you at least get where I'm coming from. And so there's less of a reason to like just come out and attack me for
that
for
helps,
opinion.
That's why those people on the internet that write, I mean, they only have so many words that they can use on a page, to get the thing across, and people will either read it or they'll just read the headline and get mad about that. And that's what happens a lot of times, that people just read their headline and go, what did they say? They shouldn't be saying that. If I had a chainsaw, I'd cut them. And then it's a whole goddamn thing. The internet's a crazy place, I tell you what.
It is. Yeah. And I think even for me, right, like someone who grew up wanting to write for video games and ingesting a lot of games writing, the only time that I've gone to IGN, like the website in the last few years, was last year on Nerds Without Pants when we were actively doing a news segment.
Right.
And that was just to get news articles. But other than that,
I mean, there's a couple news places out there that have stuff like that. I mean, you can that's mostly what I go to anything like that for, to find out the news of the video games. Mm-hmm. But I mean, really, other than that, and there are reviewers, and I'm sure they're great, but like, are you going to sit, sometimes I'll read a full review, but not too often, it's a whole thing. And even there's just not enough room for all of it. There's so many people trying to do that same thing that, they're only going to go to the big ones. You search out, a video game review site on Google, you're going to only find probably the three biggest ones, because that's what Google's going to show you or whatever. You know what I mean? It's a tough market. That's why a lot of people got laid off that one year.
Multiple years
in video game writing, because the market just ain't there for that stuff,
Yeah. Like, okay, let me answer Mike's question like definitively, because I know I kind of like.
I mean, we told him the truth is what we did, but.
Well, yeah, but let's do the what if. Like, so if I had like access to like a massive budget, and like I could hire the people that I'd want to hire, right? So it's like, I'm going to get like all the original Giant Bomb guys. I'm going to get like Patrick Klepek. I'm going to get Austin Walker. I'm going to get Jeremy Parrish and Kat Bailey. Like, I'm going to get like the biggest names that I can think of. And like about 10,000 people are going to give a shit.
Right.
If that, right? Because like, as much as I love all of those creators, they're also getting up there.
Right.
And, like they're only going to connect with a certain, it's like, I think one of the things that's been very eye-opening to me, now that I've gotten into the VTubing space, because I've had this question for years about what is the actual gaming audience, right? Like people who care about video games and want to engage with video game content. Like, what is that actual audience? How large is it? Now that I've gotten, like, I'm following like a lot of the HoloLive girls, like I actually have subscribed to them and stuff like that. So I'll see when they're live. Right. So it's like Cecilia Immigreen goes live. She's got like 6,000 people watching her at any given moment. Or a really good example, a huge example, when Bibu was, she was doing, I actually watched her defeat the last boss of Shadow of the Erd Tree. Like, I saw her, like, lab that for, like, an hour and a half.
All right.
She had up to, like, 90,000 people watching her for that fight, right? Giant Bomb goes live, and they've got, like, 700 people watching.
Right.
And it's fucking Giant Bomb.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, it's
a different
kind of
world out there right now.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yep.
It absolutely
sure
is.
The things we liked, you know, when we were growing up, people
gone.
have moved on, you know?
Yeah.
It's different now.
Yeah, and that's right. If you're going to make a modern kind of a gaming magazine, I feel like, you know, what you would want is what you talked about. You know, you want those names brought over to the company. But if you wanted to succeed, those aren't the names you want. You've got to find the people that are making the Elden Ring kind of fun build, walkthrough, whatever, that has X million people. And you've got to get them and then recruit them into this other space of, okay, now we want to hear you talk about these games in addition to doing these videos.
Yeah. Really what you would need is you need to get like Fextra Life and Vadavidia and Skill Up and like those guys, but like they're already raking in the cash by themselves. Right. Why would they like, you know, sign a deal with someone to work, you know, for someone else? Like they don't need to. So yeah, it's rough.
If I was making a video game magazine, I'd hire my friend Craig and I'd hire my friend Jeremy. I would hire, who else would I hire? Glenn. He knows things about video games. And,
would you only cover 22 rifle?
I mean, we'd talk about it. You know, it'd be in there. We'd tell you what we were doing. But, you know, we'd talk about, you know, like lawn mowing simulator. I mean, I've seen that game. It exists. You know, farming simulator. That seems fun. Get in that combine. They got the air conditioning. Them combines, I tell you what, they'll just mow the field for you. I mean, you ain't really got to do much. They just go on autopilot. They do all the work for you. It's crazy what they got in technology wise for them their combines.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, we write about, you know, video games. You know, that'd be it. But it'd just be us. And, you know, maybe it would look like you were in an aquarium, like there'd be a lot of fish. And like you could catch the fish and then you could read a review by Craig. That would be my thing.
Okay.
Right.
A lot of fish talk in this episode of the State. I was not prepared.
You know, I like fishing's fun. I think I'm going fishing in the morning. That's why I'm talking about a lot of fish. You know, I got fish on the brain. Fish and late model stock cars. Let me tell you, that's what's on my head today.
That's where the audience is.
I mean, if y'all want to ever bridge into that, let me know. I'll tell you what. I know some people.
All right. Well, last but certainly not least on the Discord is Dennis75, who says, shots fired. After listening to episode 20 and hearing the recent comments from Julian about my beloved Tower of Power, added to the utter disregard of my recent Sega CD offerings to the Suffer Select, it's fully clear that the 90s era console wars are still fresh in his mind. Let the past be the past, Julian. You should not be constrained by the Nintendo don't mentality. Open your eyes, Julian, and let the dull red flicker of the Sega CD access light guide you. Gaze into its rhythmic pulses, hear the screeching of its one-time speed CD motor, and become one with the Tower of Power. One of us. One of us. One of us.
All right.
And
Goodness.
I'll cop to it. Like I'm a dyed-in-the-wool like Super Nintendo general from the console wars. But I also just think it's a better console and most of the games were better. Not to take anything away from the Sega stuff. It's just, that's never been my wheelhouse. And it's not something that I'm like I got all of my Sega goodness in like the Genesis collections that I've bought over the years.
Well,
like I'm
that
covered
sounds
that
about
way.
right. Yeah. I mean, well, Dennis clearly likes him some Sewer Shark. You know,
yes.
he's all about that. You know, that's cool. I mean, to each their own. You know, that sounds great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's good.
I am impressed by the tower they got going in this picture that he sent.
Right.
Yeah, he sent a picture of like the actual like the full Tower of Power, which I don't. I've got so much console clutter already. I actually have a another PS2 on the way tomorrow because when I was playing Bujingai the Forsaken City for games my mom found, I discovered. Well, I didn't discover. I already knew this. So my memory card slot 1 does not work on this PlayStation 2, and Bujingai would only read from slot 1, so I had to play the game in one sitting.
Oh, God.
all
because I
right.
couldn't save.
Well,
And then my other PlayStation 2 has like a controller port that doesn't work.
all right.
So like I was like, I need a working, like a fully intact PlayStation 2. So I found one on eBay that's like refurbished and like original parts, and it also comes with came with a free like 1080p upscaler.
All right.
So I'm gonna see how that looks
That ain't
on
bad.
my TV. But that's coming tomorrow. But like as it is, like I've already got so much like console clutter. Like just the thought of having like the entire like, Sega setup.
Right.
It's just like that's too much for me.
Seems like a lot, Julian. Tell you what.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a show, guys.
All right.
All right.
Well, that was fun.
I think we did it.
All right. That's good.
Xavier, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. I always have a good time coming out here. It's good to meet you, Jacob. Had a good time.
It's good meeting
hanging
you
out
too,
with you.
Xavier. I'll tell you what. You can come on down to Colburn any day. Come on up Sandy Ridge. We'll go out there. We'll get on the side by side. Go down to the crossroads. Get some Miller Lights, you and me, and we'll have a nice old day.
I'll bring
Tell
the
you what.
cans. You bring the fishing poles. We'll have a good old time.
All right, yeah. There ain't many. You got to go a little ways to fish down there. It's a whole thing. Tell you what, it's gonna be a morning tomorrow. I tell you what, we're gonna have a trailer and the whole goddamn thing. So we might skip the fishing, but we'll get out there. We'll shoot that 22. We'll get some cans
shoot a
for you.
fish.
You at the fish. Yeah.
I've always wanted to actually shoot a fish in a barrel, so maybe we could do that. We'll try that out.
Like get a good like 7 or 8 Miller Lights in you, and sky's the limit.
Why not? Actually, you know what? I should write that down. Actually, we should get some fish in a barrel for people to shoot with the 22 in the game. Actually, that's a good idea. You might have to edit that part out. All right, because I don't want people to know about that.
Okay,
all right.
I'll see what I can do.
All right, thank you.
All right, Jacob. Thank you for pitching in for Justin.
Well, thank you for having me.
Pleasant.
It's been quite a nice time for me.
Yeah.
Tell you what.
Let's see. You can find some of us online.
You can find me over at the Lonesome Pine Speedway on Friday night sometimes. I'll be down there. You'll know it's me. I'll be up there in the top of the stands. You'll hear me hooting, hollering, complaining about the people throwing the caution flags. They throw them too much, Julian. I can't. There ain't even barely anything on the track. What the hell are we waiting for? All right. Anyway, you can find me down there. I don't have no social media right now. I mean, maybe I should, but I don't, cause it's hard. I don't like it. It scares me.
I feel like maybe like you could get Justin to run like a Sweet Tea Games account for you, but maybe it's probably committing a bit too much to the bit.
It might
for him.
Well, it might be. It's tough to say. Then I gotta get an email address. It's a whole goddamn thing for me to get on social media. I ain't doing all that. But you go down there to the Sandy Ridge, and we'll hang out. I'll let you in. Ring the doorbell. You might want to call first, but it's a whole thing. I can't give you my phone number on the internet. That wouldn't be good. Oh boy, tell you what.
Yeah.
But I'm around.
Yeah, and you can find Justin on Twitter at Tyrone_Swift. He's also at twitch.tv/TyroneSwift. You can find me on Twitter at Julian_Titus. Once again, the show is at Stage Select Pod. Thanks as always to the incredible Megan McDuffie for our theme song and interstitial tracks. Thanks as always to friend of the show, John Gholson, for being our announcer and our wonderful logo artwork. But that is going to do it for this edition of the Stage Select. I've been Julian Titus. He's been Jacob Washington. Special thanks to Xavier Kreiger. We've been the Stage Select, signing off.
All right.
Bye.
The Stage Select is copyrighted and owned by Space Monkey Mafia Productions, specializing in independent podcasting. Please consider sharing the show with your friends and support us by joining our Patreon or donating to our coffee. Thank you, and good night.
You thought I was going to fuck up at the end, didn't you, Justin?
No, I was wondering how you were going to get out of that.